Chapter 1, Measure Twice. Dominic Foster stood back from the massive oak dining table he just finished, running calloused fingers along its gleaming surface. 20 years of woodworking had taught him patience. A virtue that served him well in his craft but had perhaps cost him elsewhere. At 42, his weathered face told the story of a man who had built everything he owned with his hands. His custom furniture business, Foster Craftworks, had grown from a garage hobby to a respected brand with a 6-month waiting list. The workshop that once occupied a corner of their basement now sprawled across a renovated warehouse in Portland. Inside, the scent of sawdust and varnish created an atmosphere that felt more like home than the 5-bedroom colonial he renovated himself in the suburbs. Dom checked his watch, 7:30 p.m. He promised Lydia he'd be home for dinner at 6 o'clock. His phone buzzed with a text from his wife. "Do not bother coming home. We already ate." Dom sighed, tucking the phone away. 10 years ago, Lydia would have understood. Back when they met at Portland State. He studying engineering while working construction to pay tuition, she pursuing an art history degree. She loved his dedication. They fallen hard for each other, the artist and the craftsman, dreaming of building a beautiful life together. The drive home took 30 minutes. Dom pulled into the driveway of the house he spent 3 years renovating. Noticing the lights still on in the upstairs study where Lydia's mother, Pam Whitfield, had taken up semi-permanent residence 6 months ago after her temporary visit to help with the newborn. Inside, the house was quiet except for the murmur of voices from upstairs. Their youngest son, Nathan, was just 4 months old. A surprise late addition to their family that included 16-year-old Wyatt and 12-year-old Abigail. Dom paused by Nathan's nursery, peering in at the sleeping infant, a wave of protective love washing over him. "You finally home?" Lydia's voice cut through the silence. She stood in the hallway in silk pajamas, arms crossed. At 38, she remained strikingly beautiful, blonde hair perfectly styled even at this hour, not a single feature out of place. "The Millbrook commission took longer than expected," Dom explained. "I lost track of time." "You always do." Her voice carried no warmth. "Your dinner's in the microwave." "Thanks." "How's Nathan been today?" "Fine. Mother's been a godsend." She turned away. "I'm going to bed early. I have brunch with Taylor tomorrow." Dom knew Taylor Bryant. Lydia's friend who recently divorced her contractor husband and upgraded to a plastic surgeon. He had it downstairs, finding a plate of cold pasta in the microwave. As he ate alone at the kitchen island, he scrolled through emails on his phone. A message from his accountant caught his attention. "Unusual withdrawal patterns from joint accounts. Can we discuss? Available tomorrow morning." Dom frowned. He had not made any unusual withdrawals. Upstairs, muffled voices carried through the heating vent above. Lydia and her mother talking in the study. Dom would not normally eavesdrop, but something in their hushed tone made him pause. "CA not keep living like this, Mom." Lydia's voice was clear through the vent. "You've put in 12 years. Just be patient a little longer." Pam's reading voice was unmistakable. "Patient for what?" "For him to finally notice I'm unhappy. Dom's so wrapped up in his precious business he would not notice if I disappeared completely." Dom froze. For halfway to his mouth. "The business is doing well though, is not it?" Pam asked. Lydia laughed bitterly. "Oh yes, now it is. After I suffered through those early years in that tiny house while he poured everything into his dream. Do you know what Taylor said today? Her alimonium payment from Frank would cover my entire monthly shopping budget." "Darling, Frank was caught with his secretary. You have a different situation." A pause. "Maybe I need a different situation." Dom set down his fork, appetite gone. "You mean Gregory?" Pam's voice dropped lower. But the vent carried it perfectly. Dom's hand tightened around his water glass. Gregory Hollister, the real estate developer who had commissioned 3 pieces for his downtown penthouse last year. The man who insisted on meeting with Lydia instead of Dom to discuss the artistic elements of the designs. "Greg understands me," Lydia said. "He appreciates beautiful things. Art, culture, travel. Dom just wants to stay in his workshop all day and come home smelling like wood stain." "And what about the children?" "Wyatt's almost college age. Abby Adora's Greg. He's already offered to sponsor her for that prestigious art camp next summer. And Nathan. Nathan's still young enough to adjust." Dom felt a cold weight settling in his stomach. He stood slowly, placing his dishes in the sink. They've been talking about Gregory for months. He realized. Planning. Calculating. He moved silently up the stairs, bypassing the study, and entered Wyatt's room without knocking. His son sat hunched over his gaming PC, headphones on. "Wyatt." Dom tapped his shoulder. The teenager jumped, yanking off his headphones. "Jesus, Dad, ever heard of knocking?" Dom studied his son's face. Lydia's delicate features but Dom's dark eyes. "Sorry, just checking in. Have not seen you in a couple days." Wyatt shrugged. "Been busy. School stuff. How's the engineering club project going?" "I quit that." Wyatt turned back to his screen. "It was boring." Dom frowned. The robotics project had been Wyatt's passion since freshman year. "Since when?" "Since I realized I do not want to be stuck in a workshop my whole life." The words carried a distinct echo of Lydia's tone. "Who said Mom's right? There's more to life than building stuff nobody needs." The casual cruelty of the words stung worse than Dom expected. He straightened, nodding once. "Get some sleep. It's late." He closed the door quietly, pausing in the hallway. Something was unraveling in his life. Threads he had not even realized were loose. He thought of the accountant's email, of Gregory Hollister's smooth smile, of Lydia's coldness. In the nursery, Dom looked down at Nathan's sleeping peacefully in his crib. A beautiful walnut piece Dom had designed specifically for him. He ran his hand along the smooth rail. Thinking of his other children as babies in their own cribs, he crafted with the same care. "I'll always protect you," he whispered to his sleeping son. No matter what, he did not know yet how deeply that promise would be tested. Chapter 2. Cut against the grain. The morning light filtered through the workshop windows as Dom examined the numbers on his laptop. His accountant, Lloyd Palmer, had compiled a disturbing financial summary. Over the past 8 months, nearly $200,000 have been siphoned from their joint accounts through a series of transfers and cash withdrawals. All authorized with proper credentials, Lloyd explained over the phone. But the pattern changed about 8 months ago. The amounts are structured to avoid attention. Never more than $9,500 at once. Just under the reporting threshold, Dom observed, and the destination? Several accounts. One appears to be a private account in Lydia's name that I was not previously aware of. Others went to cash. Dom thanked Lloyd and ended the call, his mind working through the implications. 8 months ago, right around the time Lydia had announced her unexpected pregnancy with Nathan. The timing triggered something in Dom's memory. He pulled up his business records, finding the invoice for Gregory Hollister's commission dated 9 months ago. The workshop door opened and Hank Rodriguez, Dom's shop foreman and friend of 15 years, walked in carrying coffee. "You look like hell," Hank observed, sliding a cup across the desk. "Late night?" Dom rubbed his face. "How's the Rivera headboard coming?" "On schedule." Hank settled into the chair opposite Dom's desk. "But that's not what's eating you." "Spill it." Dom hesitated, then turned his laptop to show Hank the financial records. Lydia's been moving money. Chapter 1. Measure twice. Dominic Foster stood back from the massive oak dining table he just finished, running calloused fingers along its gleaming surface. 20 years of woodworking had taught him patience. A virtue that served him well in his craft, but had perhaps cost him elsewhere. At 42, his weathered face told the story of a man who had built everything he owned with his hands. His custom furniture business, Foster Craftworks, had grown from a garage hobby to a respected brand with a 6-month waiting list. The workshop that once occupied a corner of their basement now sprawled across a renovated warehouse in Portland. Inside, the scent of sawdust and varnish created an atmosphere that felt more like home than the 5-bedroom colonial he renovated himself in the suburbs. Dom checked his watch, 7:30 p.m. He promised Lydia he'd be home for dinner at 6 o'clock. His phone buzzed with a text from his wife. "Do not bother coming home. We already ate." Dom sighed, tucking the phone away. 10 years ago, Lydia would have understood. Back when they met at Portland State. He studying engineering while working construction to pay tuition, she pursuing an art history degree. She loved his dedication. They fallen hard for each other, the artist and the craftsman, dreaming of building a beautiful life together. The drive home took 30 minutes. Dom pulled into the driveway of the house he spent 3 years renovating. Noticing the lights still on in the upstairs study where Lydia's mother, Pam Whitfield, had taken up semi-permanent residence 6 months ago after her temporary visit to help with the newborn. Inside, the house was quiet except for the murmur of voices from upstairs. Their youngest son, Nathan, was just 4 months old. A surprise late addition to their family that included 16-year-old Wyatt and 12-year-old Abigail. Dom paused by Nathan's nursery, peering in at the sleeping infant, a wave of protective love washing over him. "You finally home?" Lydia's voice cut through the silence. She stood in the hallway in silk pajamas, arms crossed. At 38, she remained strikingly beautiful, blonde hair perfectly styled even at this hour, not a single feature out of place. The Millbrook commission took longer than expected, Dom explained. I lost track of time. You always do. Her voice carried no warmth. Your dinner's in the microwave. Thanks. How has Nathan been today? Fine. Mother's been a godsend. She turned away. I'm going to bed early. Wyatt's almost an adult. And he barely speaks to his father anyway. Abby will adjust. She loves you already. And Nathan? Well, he's too young to remember Dom anyway. Your ex-husband would not give up without a fight. Gregory cautioned. Lydia laughed, a sound that chilled Dom's blood. That's the beauty of it. He'll be blindsided. By the time he realizes what's happening, the narrative will be established, dedicated craftsman who neglected his family, emotionally unavailable father who chose work over his children. His predictability is his weakness. That night, Dom lay awake beside his sleeping wife, studying her face in the moonlight. 12 years of marriage, 3 children, countless promises, all being systematically dismantled while he worked to provide the life she claimed to want. A life she was now using against him. The next morning, Dom made a call to an old college friend who had become a private investigator. By the end of the week, he had comprehensive documentation of Lydia's affair, financial movements, and a troubling discovery. A paternity test report hidden in Lydia's email revealing that Gregory, not Dom, was Nathan's biological father. The betrayal cut deep, but Dom did not break. Instead, something hardened within him. Something calculated and cold that measured twice before making the first cut. He began making his own preparations quietly. He consulted with a divorce attorney recommended by his PI friend, an aggressive litigator named Reese Blackwell, who specialized in high-conflict cases. Based on what you've shown me, Reese said during their confidential meeting, we have grounds for an advantageous position, but timing will be crucial. I understand, Dom replied. But there's something I need to do first. That weekend, Dom did something he had not done in months. He stayed home all day Saturday. He made pancakes for breakfast, took Abigail to her soccer game, and even managed a civil conversation with Wyatt about college options. Lydia watched him with suspicious eyes, but said nothing. In the afternoon, Dom announced he would build a new crib for Nathan. What's wrong with the one he has? Lydia asked. I've been thinking about the design. The curved headboard would be safer, and I can add the rocking mechanism I've been working on. That seems unnecessary. Pam interjected from her permanent position on the living room sofa. Nathan's perfectly happy with his current crib. It's not about necessity. Dom said, meeting his mother-in-law's gaze steadily. It's about creating something special for my son. He set up in the sunroom, bringing in the lumber and tools he needed. Throughout the day, he worked steadily, aware of the household moving around him. Abigail watched for a while, asking questions about the wood and design as she used to when she was younger. Even Wyatt paused briefly to observe before heading out with friends. Around dinner time, Dom heard Lydia's car pulling into the driveway. She'd been out shopping with Pam, or so she'd said. The PIS report showed she'd met Gregory at his pin house for 2 hours. Dom continued working. The sound of his drilling a counterpoint to the voices now entering the house. Lydia and Pam came in carrying shopping bags, followed by Wyatt, who must have met them in the driveway. They paused in the entryway adjacent to the sunroom, not noticing Dom behind the half wall where he worked on the crib. Did you tell him yet? Wyatt asked Lydia. Not yet. His head's been buried in wood shavings all day. Lydia replied, annoyance evident in her tone. He's building another crib of all things. Another pointless project, Pam said dismissively. At least Gregory appreciates the finer things in life. Dom's hands stilled on the drill, but he did not look up. He continued working. Here's a tune to their conversation. I do not even know why you put up with him this long. Pam continued. You could have left years ago. Do not start, mother, Lydia sighed. You know why. Yes, but it's almost over now. Pam's voice lowered conspiratorially. Gregory said the penthouse renovations will be finished next month. I still not believe we finally doing this, Wyatt said. Dad's going to lose it. That's why we need to be careful, Lydia cautioned. Everything has to appear normal until we ready. They moved into the kitchen, voices becoming muffled. Dom sat motionless, the drill silent in his hand. A cold clarity washed over him. The final confirmation of what he already knew. He resumed drilling, the mechanical action grounding him as he processed his next steps. Later that evening, with Abigail upstairs doing homework and Wyatt out with friends, Dom continued working on the crib. The house grew quiet around him until Lydia's voice from the kitchen broke the silence. Mother, what if this is a mistake? Dom slowed his sanding, listening. Darling, we've been over this 100 times, Pam replied. That man has held you back for years. Look at how you've been living compared to what Gregory can offer. I know, but sometimes Dom has always been good to me. To us good? He's been absent, Lydia. Physically present, but emotionally miles away in that workshop of his. You deserve a partner, not a provider who treats you like furniture. Dom heard the refrigerator open and close, glasses clinking. I suppose you rewrite, Lydia conceded. It's just 12 years is a long time. And how many of those years were you truly happy? Be honest, a pause. I do not know anymore. Footsteps approached the sunroom. Dom resumed his work, acting absorbed in measuring a piece of walnut. Still at it, Lydia asked from the doorway, her voice carefully neutral. Dom nodded without looking up. Want to get the curvature right? Safety first. She lingered, watching him work. You did not have to do this today. It's the weekend. Wanted to, Dom replied simply. For Nathan, Lydia's expression flickered with something, guilt, perhaps, before she turned away. Do not stay up too late. After she left, Dom continued working, his movements precise and controlled. In the kitchen, the conversation resumed. Voices carrying clearly to where he sat. I just do not understand what he gets out of it. Lydia was saying. Spending hours hunched over when he could be living his life. Men like Dominic find purpose in providing. Pam replied dismissively. It's primitive, really. Well, Gregory says. Gregory says a lot of things, darling. But can we trust him to follow through once you re-divorced? Men can be fickle. This is different. He loves me. He says Dom never appreciated what he had. And the children, especially Nathan, Gregory's already talking about adoption once the divorce is final. He says he's always wanted a son. There was a significant pause before Pam spoke again. Her voice lower but still audible. And you're certain Dom does not suspect? About Nathan. Dom's hand tightened around the sanding block. How could he? I was careful with the timing. As far as Dom knows, Nathan is his. Well, the resemblance is minimal, thankfully. And once you resettled with Gregory, it would not matter anyway. Lydia's voice dropped, forcing Dom to strain to hear. I just want this over with. Living this double life is exhausting. It would not be much longer. Pam assured her. Gregory says his lawyer has everything prepared. Once you file, it will move quickly. And Dom will be blindsided. Men like him always are. They think providing a house and paying bills equals a relationship. A door opened and closed. Why returning home? The conversation in the kitchen shifted, but Dom had heard enough. He worked late into the night, forcing himself to focus on the craftsmanship of the crib rather than the cold rage building inside him. Chapter 3, The Breaking Point. Sunday morning, dawn, bright and clear. Dom woke early, made coffee, and returned to the sunroom to continue work on the crib. The house remained quiet until after 9, when footsteps on the stairs announced the family stirring. Abigail was the first to appear, sleepy-eyed and pajamas. Morning, Daddy, she said, climbing onto a stool to watch him work. It's pretty. Thanks, sweetheart. Dom smiled at his daughter. The one member of the household who still seemed genuinely connected to him. Want to help me sand this section? She nodded eagerly and Dom showed her how to move with the grain. They worked in companionable silence until Lydia appeared in the doorway. Abby, breakfast is ready, she announced, her eyes moving coolly over Dom. Your grandmother made waffles. Can I finish helping Dad first? The waffles will get cold. Lydia's tone left no room for negotiation. Abigail reluctantly handed the sanding block back to Dom. Sorry, Daddy. Go on, Dom encouraged. We'll finish later. After she left, Lydia lingered. You should eat something too. I'll grab something in a bit. Dom replied, focusing on his work. Suit yourself. She turned to leave, then hesitated. Dom, we need to talk. Soon, he looked up, meeting her eyes directly. Yes, we do. Something in his gaze must have disconcerted her because she quickly looked away. I have a lunch appointment with Taylor today. Mother will watch Nathan. I'll be here, Dom said, returning to his work. Working on the crib. Later that morning, with Lydia gone and Abigail out of friend's house, Dom continued his work. The crib was taking shape. A beautiful piece with flowing lines and intricate joinery. Nathan was upstairs napping, with Pam checking on him periodically. Wyatt had retreated to his room as usual. Around noon, Dom heard Pam on the phone in the kitchen, her voice carrying through the open doorway. Yes, she's with Taylor now, Pam was saying. I think Lydia is having second thoughts. No, nothing serious, just normal hesitation. Of course, She's still committed to the plan. A pause. Gregory, you need to be patient. These things are delicate. Yes, I've been documenting everything as you suggested. No, Dom and ex-suspects nothing. He's too absorbed in his latest woodworking project. Dom continued working, maintaining a steady rhythm with his tools. The financial arrangements are in place. Pam continued. Lydia has been transferring funds gradually as you advised. Yes, the safety deposit box contains the documents. Next week should work for filing the papers while he's at that trade show in Seattle. Another pause. Do not worry about Dominic. He'll be devastated but ultimately powerless. I've seen men like him break before. Dom heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Wyatt from the sound of the heavy tread. The teenager entered the kitchen and Pam quickly ended her call. Is there anything to eat? Wyatt asked. There's leftover waffles in the refrigerator. Pam replied, is your father still working on that ridiculous crib? Yeah, he's been at it all morning. I do not understand that, man. Pam said, building furniture when you can buy perfectly good pieces at Williams-Sonoma. Wyatt snorted. Mom says it's because he does not know how to connect with actual people. Easier to work with. Wood does not talk back. Your mother has put up with a lot. Pam agreed. But soon you'll all be in a better situation. Gregory is a cultured man with connections. He can help you get into an Ivy League school. Not just those state universities your father keeps suggesting. That would be cool. Wyatt admitted. Plus his place has that awesome view of the city. And a pool on the roof, Pam added. A far cry from this suburban prison. Dom gripped his chisel tighter, continuing to shape the delicate scrollwork on the crib's headboard. When is all this happening anyway? Wyatt asked. Mom's been talking about leaving for months. Very soon. The lawyers just need to finalize a few details. Your mother will be serving the papers next week while your father is away at that furniture show. Is Dad going to freak out? About, everything? Men like your father always do. Pam said dismissively. They think providing a paycheck entitles them to loyalty. What about Nathan? Is he going to tell Dad about? That's not your concern. Pam cut him off sharply. Your mother will handle that delicate matter if and when she chooses to. That's just weird, Wyatt muttered. Living with this big secret. Life is full of necessary deceptions. Wyatt. You'll understand when you re-older. A baby's cry from upstairs interrupted their conversation. Pam sighed dramatically. Check on your brother. Would you? I need to make a few more calls. Why not Dad do it? Yes, right there. Because your father is busy making an unnecessary crib instead of actually parenting. Pam snapped. Just like he's always done. Choosing his precious woodworking over his family. Dom heard Wyatt's heavy footsteps ascending the stairs, followed by the sound of Nathan's cry subsiding. He set down his tools and stretched his back, processing everything he heard. The plans were in motion. Papers to be served next week while he was supposedly at a trade show. A trade show he already decided to skip in favor of meeting with his attorney. The conspirators were confident in their scheme, certain of Dom's predictable reaction. He moved to the kitchen for water, finding Pam still there on her phone. She looked up with poorly disguised annoyance. Taking a break finally, she asked after ending her call. Needed water, Dom replied, filling a glass at the sink. Nathan okay? Fine. Wyatt's with him. Pam watched him with barely concealed contempt. That crib looks like a lot of work for a baby who would not remember or appreciate it. Dom took a slow sip of water. That's not about appreciation. That's about doing things right. Is that what you tell yourself? Pam's voice dripped with condescension. That all these hours away from your family are about doing things right. I've never been away from my family, Pam. I've been working to provide for them. Provide, yes. That's all men like you understand. A paycheck is in a relationship, Dominic. Dom set his glass down carefully. Is that what Lydia thinks? That I'm just a paycheck? Something flickered in Pam's eyes. Caution, perhaps. I would not presume to speak for my daughter. Yet you do. Constantly. Dom held her gaze. Tell me, how long have you been planning this with her in Gregory? Pam's face paled slightly before she recovered. I do not know what you re-talking about. I think you do. Dom's voice remained calm. But it does not matter. Actions speak louder than words. Is not that what you always say? He turned and walked back to the sunroom, leaving Pam staring after him. He returned to his work, but his mind was calculating, planning. The pieces were falling into place. Not for their scheme, but for his response to it. Later that afternoon, Dom heard Lydia returned from her lunch with Taylor, which, according to the PS report he received via text, had actually been another meeting with Gregory at his penthouse. Wyatt came downstairs as she entered, and Dom overheard their conversation from his position in the sunroom. How was lunch? Wyatt asked. Fine. Lydia replied distractedly. Where's your grandmother? Upstairs with Nathan. She said she had a headache after dealing with him all morning. And your father? Still working on that stupid crib. There was a pause before Lydia spoke again, her voice lower. Did you talk to your grandmother about the plans? Yeah, she said it's happening next week. Wyatt's voice contained an edge of excitement. Are we really moving in a Gregory's penthouse? That's the plan. Lydia confirmed. But we need to be careful what we say around your father. Nothing can seem out of the ordinary until the papers are served. Yes, so clueless, White scoffed. All he cares about is his precious furniture. That's not entirely fair. Lydia said, surprising Dom. Your father has always provided well for us. So a robot could provide. Gregory actually pays attention to us. Keep your voice down. Lydia cautioned. This needs to proceed carefully. Gregory says the element of surprise is crucial. I still do not get why we have to pretend. Wyatt complained. Why not just tell Dad and get it over with? Because your father might contest the custody arrangements, especially for Nathan and Abby. Gregory's lawyers say we need to establish a pattern of his emotional absence and work addiction. What about me? I'm 16. Do not I get to choose? Of course, sweetheart. But legally it's better if we present a united front. Just for a little while longer. Dom heard them moving toward the stairs. Their voice is fading. He set down his tools. A cold clarity settling over him. Everything was now confirmed. Not just the affair or the financial deception, but the coordinated effort to take his children and destroy the life he built. He picked up his phone and sent a text to his attorney. Need to accelerate our timeline. Monday morning meeting still on, the response came quickly. Yes. Bring all documentation. Dom returned to the crib, working with renewed focus. By evening, the piece was nearly complete. A masterwork of craftsmanship that represented everything he valued. Attention to detail, structural integrity, protection for what was precious. The irony was not lost on him that he was building a crib for a child who was not biologically his. A fact Lydia and her conspirators were counting on him never discovering. The knowledge should have destroyed him. Instead, it had crystallized something within him. A determination that ran counter to their expectations of his inevitable breakdown. Dinner time approached, and Dom heard Pam and Lydia in the kitchen preparing the meal. Abigail had returned from her friend's house, and was setting the table. The domestic scene might have appeared normal to an outsider, but Dom now saw the performative nature of it all. A charade maintained until they were ready to spring their trap. He cleaned up his tools and joined them in the dining room, taking his usual place at the head of the table. Wyatt slouched in his chair, barely acknowledging Dom's presence. Abigail chattered about her day at her friend's house. Pam served the meal with her usual tight smile. Lydia sat with Nathan in her arms, the baby gurgling contentedly. The crib looks nearly finished, Lydia commented, attempting normalcy. You've been working on it all day. Almost done, Dom replied. Just need to finish the safety latches in the rocking mechanism. I'm sure it will be beautiful, she said, not meeting his eyes. Your work always is. Seems like a waste of time to me. Pam interjected. Nathan's perfectly happy with the crib he has. I like to build things for my children. Dom said evenly. That's important to me. We know, Dad. Wyatt said with teenage exasperation. Your furniture is more important than anything. Dom looked at his son. This boy he taught to ride a bike. whose robotics competitions he attended faithfully, who now regarded him with thinly veiled contempt. That's not true. Wyatt, Dom said quietly. Family comes first. Always has. Could have fooled me. Wyatt muttered. Wyatt, not a dinner. Lydia cautioned, shooting him a warning look. The meal continued with strained conversation. Abigail, sensing the tension, tried to fill the silence with stories from school. Dom noticed how Pam subtly undermined his few contributions to the conversation, how Lydia avoided direct engagement, how Wyatt's responses dripped with rehearsed disdain. After dinner, Dom returned to the sunroom to apply the final touches to the crib. The house settled into its evening routine around him. Abigail working on homework at the dining table. Wyatt retreating to his room. Lydia and Pam moving between the kitchen and living room with Nathan. Around 9, Dom overheard Lydia on the phone in the adjacent room. Her voice low but audible. I say not talk long, she was saying. Yes, everything's proceeding as planned. No, he does not suspect anything. The papers are ready. Good. Next Monday then, while he's in Seattle. A pause. I know. Just 12 years is a long time. No, I'm not getting cold feet. I'm just acknowledging the reality of ending a marriage, Gregory. Another pause. Of course Nathan will adjust. He's just a baby. Yes, Wyatt is fully on board. Abby will need time, but she'll come around. My mother has been amazing through all this. Dom continued working, his movements and precise as he installed the safety latches. I know you'll be an amazing father to them. Lydia continued. Better than. Well, more present at least. No, I do not love him. I do not think I ever really did. He's a paycheck with hands, reliable but ultimately an object, not a partner. The word struck Dom like physical blows, but he did not falter in his work. I should go, Lydia said after another pause. I'll call you tomorrow. Yes, I love you too. The call ended, and Dom heard Lydia move toward the kitchen where Pam was preparing tea. Their voice is carried clearly to where he worked. Was that Gregory? Pam asked. Yes, the papers will be ready by Friday. We file next Monday. Perfect timing with Dom and I go away at that trade show. By the time he returns, you and the children will be settled at Gregory's. Mother, I'm not sure about moving in immediately. Maybe we should take it slower for the children's sake. Nonsense, Pam dismissed. Rip the bandage off cleanly. Gregory's place has plenty of room. And it sends a clear message to the court about stability for the children. What about Dom? This will devastate him. Pam's laugh was cold. That's rather the point, is not it? We want him emotionally compromised during negotiations. I do not want to be cruel. This is not about cruelty, Lydia. It's about securing your future and the children's future. Gregory's connections and resources will provide opportunities Dominic never could. We've been planning this for months. Do not lose your nerve now. I just worry about how Dom will handle it. We'll get custody when he breaks. Pam said with certainty. Men like him always do. The court's favorite mothers, especially when the father has a documented history of workaholism. And you've been documenting? Everything. Every missed dinner. Every weekend spent in his workshop. Every school event he arrived late to. The narrative is clear. Dedicated craftsman who neglected his family for his passion. Wyatt's voice joined the conversation. Dom had not heard him enter the kitchen. Is Dad going to be at dinner tomorrow night? Grandma there made that roast he hates. He said he would be. Lydia replied. Great, Wyatt said sarcastically. Another silent meal with him judging everyone. Your father does not judge. Wyatt. Lydia chided half-heartedly. Whatever. He thinks I do not see the disappointed looks when I talk about anything besides his precious woodworking. Well, soon you will not have to worry about that. Pam interjected. Gregory appreciates your interest in photography. He's already mentioned internship possibilities at his friend's marketing firm. That would be awesome, Wyatt said enthusiastically. Hey, when Dad's served with papers, can I spit in his food? After all the times he's made us feel small. The casual cruelty of the question froze Dom's hands on the crib. Wyatt. Lydia sounded genuinely shocked. That's a horrible thing to say. What? That's not like he notice. He barely looks at his plate anyway. That's still your father you talking about. Lydia said, though her review call lacked conviction. Technically, Wyatt muttered. Enough, Pam said firmly. While your father has been less than ideal, we maintain dignity through this process. Your mother needs to appear reasonable to the courts. Fine, Wyatt conceded. But I'm not calling Gregory Dad. That's weird. No one is asking you to. Lydia assured him. Now go finish your homework. Footsteps indicated Wyatt's departure. Dom remained motionless, processing the conversation. The depth of betrayal was staggering. Not just Lydia's affair or Pam's manipulation, but his own son's hatred. And the casual reference to Nathan's paternity, technically, confirmed what the DNA test had already told him. Dom resumed his work, drilling the final connections for the crib's rocking mechanism. His movements were steady, his breathing controlled. To anyone watching, he would have appeared completely absorbed in his craft. Lydia and Pam continued their conversation, unaware of Dom's proximity or his ability to hear them. I worry about Abigail, Lydia was saying. She is still attached to her father. Children adapt. Pam dismissed. Gregory will provide her with opportunities Dominic never could. That our camp she wants to attend? Gregory's already arranged it. I know. Just, sometimes I wonder if we doing the right thing. The right thing. Pam's voice sharpened. Lydia, you've been unhappy for years. Gregory offers you a life Dominic never could. Travel, culture, social connections. Do not lose sight of why we started this. You rewrite Lydia's side. It's just difficult sometimes. Seeing him work so hard on things like that crib, knowing what's coming. His dedication to his craft over his family is precisely why this is necessary. Pam reminded her. The crib is just wood. The children need presence, not presents. Their voices faded as they moved upstairs with Nathan. Dom continued working, completing the final adjustments to the crib while past midnight. When finished, he stood back to assess his work, a masterpiece of craftsmanship. Every joint perfect, every curve smooth, built to last generations. He ran his hand along the railing, thinking of the child who would sleep in it. A child he had believed was his, conceived and born during the planning of his family's betrayal. The knowledge should have broken him. Instead, it hardened his resolve. Dom cleaned his tools, wiped down the crib with lemon oil, and turned off the workshop lights. In the darkness, he made a decision. They expected him to break. They had planned for it, counted on it, documented in preparation for it. He would not give them the satisfaction. Upstairs, he paused at Nathan's room, looking in at the sleeping infant. Regardless of biology, Dom had cared for this child, had loved him without reservation. That love did not disappear with the revelation of betrayal, but its nature transformed into something protective rather than possessive. In the master bedroom, Lydia was already asleep or pretending to be. Dom showered and prepared for bed with his usual routine, giving no indication that the world as he knew it had fundamentally changed. As he lay in the darkness beside the woman who had orchestrated his destruction, Dom's mind worked through the implications of everything he had learned, and the steps he would now take. They had underestimated him, assuming that his predictability was weakness. They did not understand that his nature, the same quality that made him an exceptional craftsman, would now be directed toward a different kind of precision work. Tomorrow he would begin. Chapter 4. Measure the damage. Monday morning arrived with a deceptive normalcy. Dom rose at his usual time, showered, and dressed for work. Lydia remained asleep as he left the bedroom. Downstairs, he made coffee and prepared breakfast for himself. Simple routines that now felt like performances in a play whose script had been revealed to him. At 7:30, he left for what Lydia believed was his regular workday. Instead, he drove directly to Reese Blackwell's office in downtown Portland, arriving for their 8 o'clock appointment with a thumb drive containing all the evidence he had gathered. Reese Blackwell's office occupied the corner suite of a modern building with views of the Willamette River. The attorney, a sharp-featured woman in her 50s with penetrating gray eyes, studied Dama's evidence in silence, occasionally making notes. This is comprehensive. She finally said, removing her reading glasses. The financial transfers alone constitute marital fraud. The DNA test is particularly damning. Dom nodded. I need to know my options. Based on what you've shown me, we can file for divorce immediately, citing adultery and fraud. You have a strong case for maintaining ownership of your business and limiting spousal support. The custody situation is more complex. Nathan is not biologically mine. Dom stated flatly. Legally, that may not matter. You've acted as his father since birth, which establishes paternity by acknowledgement in most courts. However, given the circumstances, you may not want custody. Dom considered this. I do not want to punish a child for his mother's actions. Reese nodded approvingly. Admiral, but I should warn you, custody battles get ugly. Your wife appears to have been documenting a narrative of your supposed emotional absence. Courts sometimes favor that kind of soft evidence over financial stability. What about Abigail and Wyatt? Abigail is young enough that custody will be determined by the court. Wyatt at 16 will likely have his preferences considered. And if his preference has been influenced by manipulation, that's difficult to prove. Reese leaned forward. Mr. Foster, I need to know your objectives here. Do you want maximum financial protection, custody, or something else? Dom met her gaze directly. I want justice. Reese's expression remained neutral. Define justice. They plan to blindside me, take my children, my business, my reputation. They expected me to break. Dom's voice remained steady. I want to ensure that does not happen. Understandable. But revenge rarely brings satisfaction in these cases. This is not about revenge. It's about correcting a false narrative. Reese studied him for a moment. Most clients in your position act from emotion. You surprisingly controlled. I'm a craftsman. Precision matters. Indeed. She tapped her pen against the desk. What's your timeline? They plan to serve me papers next Monday, while I'm supposedly at a trade show in Seattle. Then we move first. Reese decided. I can have papers prepared by Wednesday. But before we file, I suggest securing your business assets. Based on these financial records, your wife has been systematically removing funds from joint accounts. Already in progress. Dom confirmed. My business partner is handling it today. Good. Now, regarding the recorded conversations, Oregon requires only one-party consent. So they legally obtained. However, the paternity issue complicates matters. If you do not want custody of Nathan, his biological father would have first claim. Gregory Hollister, Dom supplied. The real estate developer. Reese looked surprised. That adds another dimension. His resources will match yours in a legal battle. I'm prepared for that. Reese nodded. Making another note. One more thing. Many clients in your position make the mistake of confronting their spouse immediately. I strongly advise against this. Maintain normalcy until papers are served. I understand. Can you do that? Live with them knowing what you know. Dom thought of the crib he completed while listening to his family's betrayal. Yes. After leaving Reese, Dom drove to Foster Craftworks. Hank met him at the door with concern etched on his face. Everything okay, boss? You late. Had an appointment. Dom replied, moving toward his office. How's the Rivera headboard coming? On track. But that's not important right now. Hank followed Dom, closing the office door behind them. I did what you asked. Move the business funds to the separate account. Lydia called looking for you about 20 minutes ago. Sounded anxious. Dom checked his phone, finding 3 missed calls from his wife. Did she say what she wanted? No. But she tried to get me to confirm you'd be at that Seattle trade show next week. I played dumb like you said. Dom nodded, scrolling through his text messages. One from Lydia, need to talk about next week's schedule. Call me when you can. Thanks, Hank. I appreciate your discretion. Do not mention it. Hank hesitated. Look, Dom, I've known you 15 years. Whatever's going on, I'm in your corner. I know. Dom managed to thin smile. I'll fill you in when I can. For now, business as usual. After Hank left, Dom called Lydia back. Where have you been? She demanded. I've been calling all morning. Client meeting ran long. Dom replied evenly. What's up? I need to confirm you're still going to Seattle next week. Mother's planning a family dinner for Sunday. And I told her you'd be leaving Monday morning. The casual life stung despite everything he now knew. That's still the plan. Good. Her relief was palpable. How long will you be gone again? Until Thursday. 1. Just finalizing our schedule. Abby has that school presentation on Friday, remember? Another piece of their plan. Ensuring he'd be away long enough for them to execute their strategy. I remember. Okay. Well, do not work too late tonight. Nathan's been asking for you. The manipulation was so transparent now that Dom almost laughed. A 4-month-old asking for someone. I'll try to get home at a reasonable hour. See you then. She paused. Dom. Yes. I never mind. See you tonight. Dom ended the call, wondering if that moment of hesitation had been genuine regret or just another calculated performance. It hardly mattered now. He spent the rest of the day reviewing business operations with new eyes, identifying vulnerabilities that Lydia or her lawyers might exploit. By late afternoon, he had implemented several protective measures, changing account access protocols, documenting ongoing projects and their revenue projections, and meeting with his financial advisor to restructure certain assets. At 6 p.m., Dom left the workshop and drove home, maintaining the appearance of his normal routine. Inside the house, he found Abigail at the dining table doing homework while Pam supervised. She looked up with barely concealed disdain as he entered. Dinner's nearly ready, she informed him. Lydia's upstairs with Nathan. Thanks. Dom set down his keys and briefcase. How was school today, Abby? Good. His daughter replied, brightening. I got an A on my science project. The one with the plant growth experiments. That's my girl. Dom said proudly. I knew all that hard work would pay off. Pam interjected. Wyatt's at basketball practice. He'll be home late. The subtle reminder that his son had a life Dom knew little about was not lost on him. I'll save him a plate. Upstairs, Dom found Lydia in the nursery, rocking Nathan. She looked up as he entered. Her expression guarded. You're home early, she observed. Promise I would be. Dom approached the rocking chair, looking down at Nathan. The baby, not his son biologically, but still a child he had cared for, gurgled and reached for him. Dom let the tiny fingers grasp his larger one. How has he been today? Fussy this morning, better this afternoon. Lydia studied Dom's face. You look tired. Long day. Dom continued to let Nathan hold his finger, aware of Lydia watching him intently. Dom, she began hesitantly. Are you happy? The question caught him off guard. Not because of its unexpectedness, but because of its audacity. After everything she had planned, everything she had said when she thought he could not hear, she had the nerve to ask about his happiness. Happiness is overrated, he replied evenly. I prefer contentment. Knowing you've built something worthwhile. She looked away. That's a very pragmatic view. I'm a pragmatic person. Dom straightened up. I'll wash up for dinner. Throughout the meal, Dom maintained his composure, engaging in conversation about work projects and responding to Abigail's stories about school. Pam watched him with barely disguised suspicion, clearly unsettled by his uncharacteristic presence at the dinner table on a Monday. The crib looks finished, Lydia commented as they cleared the dishes. It's beautiful work. Thank you. I'll move it into the nursery tomorrow. That's really not necessary. Pam interjected. The current crib is perfectly adequate. Dom met his mother-in-law's gaze steadily. I built cribs for both Wyatt and Abigail. It's a tradition. Some traditions outlive their usefulness. Pam replied coolly. And some things that appear useless hold tremendous value. Dom countered. A flash of unease crossed Pam's face, but before she could respond, the front door opened, announcing Wyatt's return. The teenager entered the kitchen, surprised, registering on his face at seeing Dom still there. You're home, he stated unnecessarily. Yes, Dom confirmed. How was practice? Wyatt shrugged, avoiding a contact. Fine. Coach says I might start on Friday. That's great. I'd like to be there. You do not have to. Wyatt said quickly. It's not a big deal. It is to me. Dom held his son's gaze until Wyatt looked away uncomfortably. Later that night, after the house had settled, Dom worked in his home office, reviewing documents and planning his next steps. Around midnight, Lydia appeared in the doorway in her silk robe. Coming to bed, she asked. Soon, Dom replied without looking up from his computer. She lingered. You've been different the past couple of days. Have I? More present. It's nice. The performance continued even now. Dom finally looked up at her. Sometimes we do not appreciate what we have until we refaced with losing it. A flash of alarm crossed her features before she composed herself. What do you mean? Just a general observation. Dom closed his laptop. You rewrite, it's late. Let's go to bed. In the darkness of their bedroom, Lydia reached for him for the first time in months. Dom gently moved her hand away. I'm tired, he said simply. She withdrew, confused by this departure from his usual responsiveness to her rare initiations. Is everything okay? Just thinking about that Seattle trip. Lot to prepare for. Oh, she settled back on her side of the bed. Good night, then. Good night, Lydia. Dom lay awake long after her breathing had evened out in sleep, contemplating the woman beside him. This stranger he had loved and built a life with, who had planned his destruction while sleeping in his bed and raising children in his home. The next 2 days proceeded with calculated normalcy. Dom maintained his regular work schedule but began the process of securing his personal belongings and important documents. He spent time with Abigail, helping with her homework and listening to her stories. With Wyatt, he made careful overtures that were met with suspicion but not outright rejection. Throughout it all, he observed the subtle communications between Lydia, Pam, and occasionally Wyatt. The knowing looks, the careful phrasings, the sudden silence is when he entered rooms. They believed their plan was proceeding perfectly, unaware that Dom was 10 steps ahead. On Wednesday evening, Dom received confirmation from Reese that the divorce papers were ready. They would be served to Lydia the following day while Dom was at work. A full 5 days before she planned to serve him. That night, Dom completed the final preparations in his home office, securing digital copies of all important documents and evidence. As he worked, he heard Lydia on the phone in the adjacent room, her voice low but audible. Everything set for Monday, she was saying. He does not suspect a thing. Yes, Gregory, I'm sure. The account transfers are complete. Mother has arranged for the movers while he's in Seattle. The casual confirmation of their plans strengthened Dom's resolve. He continued working silently, listening as Lydia outlined how they would dismantle the life he had built. Wyatt's excited about the move, she continued. Abby will need time to adjust, but she'll come around once she sees the view from the penthouse. Yes, Mother's been invaluable through all this. A pause. I know it's been difficult waiting, but by this time next week, it will all be over. Dom will be served the papers in Seattle, and by the time he returns, we'll be settled in with you. Another pause. I love you too. Soon we would not have to hide anymore. The call ended, and Dom heard Lydia moving toward the bedroom. He shut down his computer and followed shortly after, maintaining the charade for one more night. Tomorrow everything would change. Chapter 5: Strategic Cuts. Thursday morning, dawn, rainy and gray, fitting weather for what Dom had planned. He rose early, showered, and dressed with particular care, selecting the charcoal suit he rarely wore except for important client meetings. Lydia watched him from the bed, eyebrows raised in surprise. Special meeting today, she asked. Something like that. Dom replied, adjusting his tie. Do not wait up tonight. It might run late. Her skepticism was evident, but she did not press. All right, do not forget Abby has that recital tomorrow evening. I would not. Dom gathered his briefcase, now containing copies of all the evidence he had collected. Have a good day, Lydia. The formality of his tone caught her attention. Dom, is everything okay? He paused at the bedroom door, studying the woman he had loved for 12 years. We'll talk soon. Downstairs, Dom found Pam already in the kitchen, preparing coffee. She barely acknowledged his presence until she noticed his formal attire. Are not we dressed up? She remarked sarcastically. Hot date, important meeting, Dom replied evenly. Good morning to you too, Pam. Her eyes narrowed at his unusual equanimity in the face of her barbs. For years, Dom had weathered her subtle insults with resigned tolerance. Today's calm confidence clearly unsettled her. Lydia mentioned you'll be at that furniture show all next week, she said, probing. Seems like a long time to be away from your family. Plans change. Dom replied cryptically, pouring coffee into his travel mug. Enjoy your day, Pam. He left before she could respond, knowing her suspicions would immediately send her running to Lydia. It was part of his plan, creating just enough uncertainty to make them nervous without revealing his hand. At the workshop, Dom found Hank already there, reviewing the day's project schedule. Big day, Hank asked, noting Dom's formal attire. You could say that. Dom set down his briefcase. I need you to handle things here this morning. I've got an appointment downtown. No problem. The Nakamura credenza is ready for finishing and the Rivera headboard ships tomorrow. Hank hesitated. Everything still on track with the other situation? Yes, you'll know when it happens. Dom checked his watch. I should be back by early afternoon. Call if anything urgent comes up. Dom drove downtown through the morning traffic, arriving at Reese Blackwell's office just before 9 a.m. The attorney was waiting for him. Papers organized on her desk. Everything prepared. She informed him. The process server will deliver the papers to your wife at 10:30 a.m. Are you certain about not being present? Yes, she needs to experience this without me there to react to. Reese nodded approvingly. Strategic. Most clients want to witness the moment, but your approach gives you the advantage of preparation for the inevitable confrontation. Exactly. Dom reviewed the final divorce petition, noting the comprehensive documentation of Lydia's affair, financial fraud, and the paternity issue. What happens next? After service, your wife will likely contact her attorney immediately. Given what you've told me about their plans, they may try to accelerate their timeline. Be prepared for that. I've also filed for emergency injunctions regarding the marital assets and temporary possession of the family home. Given the evidence of your wife's financial maneuvers and planned departure, the judge should rule in our favor. And the children? The temporary custody arrangement allows for shared custody of Abigail, with the court recognizing Wyatt's age in determining his living arrangements. As for Nathan, Reese hesitated. I understand, Dom said quietly. Biologically, he's not mine. But I'd like reasonable visitation until paternity is legally established. That's generous under the circumstances, Rez observed. Most men in your position would not want any connection. He's innocent in all this. For months old, he knows me as his father. Reese made a note. I'll ensure that's reflected in our filings. At 10:15 a.m., Dom's phone rang. Lydia's number. He silenced it without answering. By now, she would have received warning from Pam about his unusual behavior in attire. The uncertainty would be building. Good. At 10:45 a.m., his phone exploded with notifications. 5 missed calls from Lydia, 2 from Pam, and attacks from Wyatt. What did you do? Dom set the phone aside. Done. Reese nodded. Now we wait. Your wife will likely try to contact you repeatedly before consulting an attorney. I recommend maintaining radio silence until she does. Agreed. Dom stood, straightening his tie. I'll head back to the workshop. When can we expect the judge's ruling on the emergency injunctions? Later today, most likely. I've emphasized the time-sensitive nature given your wife's documented plans to relocate the children. Dom thanked Reese and left the office, driving directly to Foster Craft Works. Inside, he found Hank waiting anxiously. Your phone has been blowing up, Hank informed him. Lydia called the shop line 5 times. Said it's an emergency. Not. Dom assured him, loosening his tie. But things are happening as expected. If she calls again, tell her I'm in client meeting and unavailable. You got it, boss. Hank hesitated. You sure you're okay? You seem different. I'm fine. Better than I've been in a long time, actually. Dom removed his suit jacket. Let us get back to work. The Nakamura credenza would not finish itself. By early afternoon, the calls from Lydia had stopped, indicating she'd finally consulted an attorney. Dom's phone buzzed with a text from Reese. Judge granted all emergency injunctions. Wife legally prevented from removing children or assets from family home. You have temporary possession of residence. Wife must vacate within 48 hours. Dom read the message twice, processing the implications. Lydia, Pam, and eventually Gregory had planned for him to return from Seattle to find his family gone and home empty. Now the tables were turned. Lydia would be the one forced to leave, and quickly. At 3:30 p.m., Dom received another text. This one from Lydia. My attorney says we need to talk. I'll be at the house with Gregory at 5 o'clock. Mother will take the children to dinner. The message revealed much. She was already aligned with Gregory publicly, had retained counsel immediately, and was planning to control the narrative by having the children removed from the confrontation. Dom replied simply, "I'll be there." He left the workshop at 430, stopping briefly to change back into his suit. The symbolic armor felt appropriate for the battle ahead. As he drove home, Dom reflected on the 12 years of marriage now ending in calculated destruction. There was pain, certainly, but it was overshadowed by a cold clarity. The recognition that what he was losing had been illusory for some time. Dom arrived at the house at 4:55 p.m. to find an unfamiliar silver Audi parked in the driveway alongside Lydia's BMW. Inside, voices came from the living room. Lydia's strained tone intermingling with a deeper, male voice Dom recognized as Gregory's, and a third voice he did not know, presumably Lydia's attorney. He entered to find exactly what he expected. Lydia pacing nervously in a carefully selected outfit that projected both vulnerability and indignation. Gregory Hollister standing by the fireplace in an expensive suit, projecting confident ownership of the space. And a sharp-featured man in his 60s with a leather portfolio who could only be their lawyer. All three looked up as Dom entered. Gregory had the grace to appear momentarily discomfited, while Lydia's face twisted with a combination of rage and shock. "How could you?" she demanded immediately, "serving me divorced papers without even the decency of a conversation first?" Dom set down his briefcase. "Hello, Lydia." "Gregory." He nodded to the third man. "And you must be the attorney." "Maxwell Thornton," the man confirmed, extending his hand reflexively before thinking better of it and withdrawing the gesture. "This is highly irregular, Mr. Foster. Typically, couples attempt mediation before such aggressive legal actions. Typically, wives do not plan to empty joint accounts and disappear with the children while their husbands are away on business." Dom replied evenly. Lydia blanched. "What are you talking about?" "Please." Dom's voice remained calm. "Let us not waste time with denials. I know everything. The affair, the financial transfers, the paternity deception, and your plans for next Monday while I was supposedly in Seattle." Gregory stepped forward. "Now listen here, Foster. You see, not just make wild accusations. They not accusations. They documented facts." Dom interrupted. "Every conversation, every transfer, every meeting between you two. All documented and submitted to the court, including the DNA test proving Nathan is your biological son, Gregory." The room fell silent. Lydia sank onto the sofa, her carefully constructed indignation crumbling. Gregory looked to Thornton, who was rapidly reassessing the situation. "If you have evidence, we need to review it," Thornton stated, professional mask firmly in place. "These are serious allegations. Your client knows they're true," Dom replied. "As does her companion. This is absurd." Lydia found her voice. "You've been spying on me? Recording private conversations? That's illegal." One-party consent state, Dom reminded her. "And the financial records speak for themselves. $236,000 transferred from our joint accounts to your private accounts and safety deposit box over the past 8 months. That money was for the children." Lydia protested. "For their future with Gregory in his penthouse." Dom asked quietly, "The one you planned to move them to while I was in Seattle?" Thornton raised a hand. "Mr. Foster, perhaps we should take a step back. Clearly there are misunderstandings on both sides." "There's no misunderstanding." Dom cut him off. "Your client's plan to defraud me of my business, my home, and my children. They discussed it at length. In conversations I've recorded and submitted to the court. The judge has already granted emergency injunctions based on this evidence." He turned to Lydia. "You have 48 hours to vacate the premises. The children remain here except for Nathan, who can accompany you if you choose, pending paternity confirmation." Lydia's face pale further. "You throwing me out of my own home?" "The home I built," Dom corrected. "The one you planned to abandon on Monday. The court has granted me temporary possession based on your documented intention to relocate the children without consent." Gregory stepped forward, his practiced charm giving way to cold anger. "You think you won something here, Foster? This is just the beginning. We have resources you ca not imagine. I'm not interested in winning Gregory. I'm interested in truth. Dom met the man's gaze steadily. The truth you and Lydia and Pam planned to bury under a fabricated narrative of my emotional absence and work addiction. That narrative exists because it's true. Lydia snapped, finding her footing in familiar grievances. You were never present, not really. Always in that damned workshop, always with your precious furniture. Building a life for us, Dom replied quietly. A life you decided was not enough when something shinier came along. Thornton cleared his throat. This is becoming unproductive. Mr. Foster, my clients will need time to review these court orders with me and determine next steps. Of course, Dom gestured to the door. Take all the time you need. Just not here. You ca not just throw us out, Lydia protested. I need to pack, to explain to the children. You have 48 hours to pack, Dom reminded her. As for the children, I think explaining that you plan to take them away while I was on a business trip might be difficult. Perhaps stick with irreconcilable differences for now. Lydia's eyes narrowed. UV changed. This cold, calculating person is not the Dom I married. And the woman who told her mother I was a paycheck with hands is not the Lydia I married. Dom countered. People reveal themselves in crisis. UV revealed who you are. Now I'm revealing who I am. The statement hung in the air, a declaration that shifted the power dynamics in the room. Gregory looked to Thornton, who was already gathering his papers. We'll be in touch through your attorney, Mr. Foster, Thornton said stiffly. Come, Lydia, Gregory. We have much to discuss. As they moved toward the door, Dom called after them. One more thing. The crib I built for Nathan is yours to take. Despite everything. He deserves beautiful things in his life. The gesture, genuine despite the circumstances, seemed to unbalance Lydia more than anything else. She paused at the door, tears welling in her eyes. I did love you once, she said softly. In the beginning. Dom nodded. I know. That's what makes this tragic rather than merely pathetic. After they left, Dom stood alone in the silent house, feeling the weight of the confrontation settling around him. The first phase of his response to their betrayal was complete. The legal groundwork laid. The advantage ceased. But the real challenge lay ahead. Rebuilding a life and relationship with his children from the ashes of deception. His phone buzzed with a text from Pam. We at Piccolo's with the children. What should I tell them? The question revealed that news had already spread. Lydia must have called her mother immediately after leaving. Dom considered his response carefully before replying. Tell them I'll be here when you bring them home. This is between their mother and me. The reply came quickly. UV made a terrible mistake. Dominic, this would not end well for you. Dom did not bother responding to the threat. Instead, he went upstairs and began preparing the guest bedroom where Pam had been staying. She too would need to vacate, given her documented role in the conspiracy. As he worked, Dom heard the front door open. Too soon for Pam to be returning with the children. He descended the stairs to find Lydia standing in the entryway alone. Her expression a complex mixture of anger and uncertainty. I need to get some things, she said before he could speak. Personal items. Of course. Dom gestured toward the stairs. Take what you need. She hesitated. Are not you going to watch me? Make sure I do not take anything valuable? Would that be necessary? The question hung between them, a reminder of the trust irrevocably broken. Lydia looked away first. I do not understand how you found out, she said finally. We were so careful. Not careful enough. Dom leaned against the wall, watching her. The night I was building Nathan's crib. I heard everything. You telling your mother you never loved me, that I was just a paycheck with hands. Her saying you'd get custody when I broke. Wyatt asking if he could spit in my food. Lydia blanched. You were there? That whole time. I kept drilling. Never looked up. Just kept working on a crib for a child. I just learned was not mine. Dom, save it. There's nothing you can say that would matter now. He straightened. Get what you need and go. The children will be home soon. Lydia ascended the stairs and Dom returned to the kitchen. hearing her movements overhead as she gathered her belongings. 20 minutes later, she reappeared with a small suitcase. "Gregory's waiting for me," she said unnecessarily. "Well, I'll arrange to get the rest of my things tomorrow." "Fine." She paused at the door. "What will you tell the children?" "The truth," Dom replied. "Not all at once and not with cruelty. But I would not lie to them about why their mother is leaving. They'll hate you for this," Lydia warned. "For breaking up our family was already broken. You and Gregory and your mother saw to that." Dom opened the door for her. "Goodbye, Lydia." After she left, Dom returned to preparing the house for the difficult conversations ahead. He cleaned up the living room, removing traces of the confrontation, and prepared simple snacks for when the children returned. Around 7:30 p.m., headlights swept across the front window as Pam's car pulled into the driveway. Dom steeled himself and went to meet them at the door. Abigail entered first. Her face creased with confusion. "Dad, where's Mom?" "Grandma said you and Mom needed to talk about grown-up things." Wyatt followed, his expression guarded but with an undercurrent of anxiety. "What's going on?" "Mom's not answering her phone." Pam entered last, carrying Nathan in his carrier. Her face was rigid with barely contained fury. "Children, go upstairs while I speak with your father." "No," Dom said firmly. "Abby, Wyatt, please sit down in the living room. We need to talk." "Pam, you can give me Nathan and then leave." "I will do no such thing." Pam sputtered. "These children need me here. What they need is truth, not manipulation." Dom reached for Nathan's carrier. "The judge has granted me temporary possession of the house. You have not till Saturday to gather your belongings." Wyatt stepped between them. "What are you talking about?" "What judge?" Dom sighed. "Let us sit down. All of us. This affects everyone." In the living room, Dom explained as gently as possible that he and Lydia were separating, that legal proceedings had begun, and that changes would be coming to their living arrangements. He omitted the details of the affair, the financial deception, and Nathan's paternity, focusing instead on the fundamental breakdown of trust between their parents. Abigail began crying quietly. Wyatt's face cycled through shock, anger, and confusion. Pam sat rigidly, occasionally attempting to interject with comments Dom firmly redirected. "Your mother will be staying with Gregory Hollister for now," Dom concluded. "You'll both have the opportunity to spend time with her and with me." "Gregory," Wyatt's voice cracked. "Mom's moving in with Mr. Hollister?" "Yes. But how long has that been happening?" Dom chose his words carefully. "That is something your mother should discuss with you." "This is absurd," Pam interjected. "Dominic is trying to paint your mother as the villain when he's the one who's been an absent husband and father for years." "Pam," Dom's voice carried a warning. "This is not the time or place." "When is it then?" she demanded. "When you poison these children against their mother, against me." Dom turned to his children. "Abby, Wyatt, would you please take Nathan upstairs for a few minutes? I need to speak with your grandmother privately." Wyatt hesitated, but Abigail was already lifting Nathan from his carrier. "Come on," she said to her brother. "Please." After they left, Dom faced Pam. "I have recordings of every conversation you had with Lydia planning to take my children while I was away. Every discussion about getting custody when I broke. Every strategy session about documenting my supposed emotional absence. It's all submitted to the court." Pam's face drained of color. "You were spying on us. I was building a crib in my own home when I overheard you and Lydia and Wyatt discussing me as if I were an obstacle to be removed. So I started paying attention." Dom leaned forward. "Did you really think I would not fight for my children? For the life I built?" "The life you built?" Pam scoffed. "You built furniture, Dominant. Lydia built this family while you hid in your workshop. That workshop paid for this house, for Abby's soccer camps, for Wyatt's private school, for your extended visits that somehow never ended." Dom stood. "Now it will provide for my children's future without the poison of your influence. You not keep me from my grandchildren. I do not intend to, but I will ensure they understand exactly who orchestrated this betrayal." Dom moved toward the door. "You have not till Saturday to pack your things. If you attempt to remove anything that does not belong to you, or to influence the children against me, the recordings go public." Pam paled further. "You would not. Try me." Dom opened the front door. "Good night, Pam." After she stormed out, Dom went upstairs to find Abigail and Wyatt in Nathan's room. Abigail was rocking the baby while Wyatt sat on the floor, his back against the wall. "Is she gone?" Wyatt asked. "For now, she'll be back tomorrow to pack." Dom sat beside his son. "I know this is confusing and painful. I'm sorry you were caught in the middle. Did Mom really with Mr. Hollister?" Wyatt could not finish the question. Dom sighed. "Yes. But that's between your mother and me. How long have you known?" "Not long. About a week." Wyatt looked up, his face troubled. "So when I said that thing about spitting in your food, you heard that?" Dom met his son's gaze. "I heard everything that night." Wyatt. Shame washed over the teenager's features. "Dad, I did not. I was just saying what I thought Mom and Grandmother wanted to hear." "Were you?" Dom asked quietly. Wyatt looked away. "I do not know anymore. They've been telling me for so long how you did not care. How you chose work over us. I started believing it. I've made mistakes." Dom acknowledged. "Spent too many late nights at the workshop. Missed events I should not have. But everything I built for this family." Abigail joined them. Nathan cradled against her chest. "What happens now, Daddy? Now we adjust to a new normal. Your mother and I will work out arrangements for you both to spend time with each of us. Nothing changes about how much we love you. But everything else changes." Abigail said perceptively. "Yes," Dom admitted. "Everything else changes." That night, after getting the children settled, Dom sat alone in his home office reviewing the events of the day. The initial confrontation had gone as planned. He had maintained control, presented the evidence, and secured the legal advantage. But the aftermath with the children had been harder than anticipated. Wyatt's admission of performed hostility. Abigail's quiet tears, the uncertainty in both their faces. These were costs he had not fully calculated. Still, as Dom prepared for bed in the master bedroom that now felt cavernously empty, he recognized that today's pain was necessary. What Lydia, Gregory, and Pam had planned would have devastated the children far more thoroughly. A sudden disappearance of their father from their lives, a narrative of abandonment, the systematic erasure of his role in their upbringing. Dom had not just protected himself today. He had protected the truth. And truth, like well-crafted furniture, might be difficult to shape, but would stand the test of time. Chapter 6, Joining the Pieces. Friday morning brought a tentative new routine to the Foster household. Dom made breakfast for Abigail and Wyatt, helped them prepare for school, and arranged for his shop foreman Hank to watch Nathan until the regularly scheduled sitter arrived. The children were subdued but functional, asking practical questions about when they would see their mother and what would happen with Nathan. "Your mother will contact you directly," Dom assured them. "And Nathan will stay with us for now until the legal arrangements are finalized." After they left for school, Dom called Reese for an update. "Your wife's attorney reached out late yesterday," she informed him. "They requesting an emergency hearing to contest the temporary possession order." "On what grounds?" "The usual, claiming you misrepresented the situation to the court, that the recordings were obtained under dubious circumstances, that your wife had no intention of permanently relocating the children without legal permission." Reese's tone suggested she found these arguments unpersuasive. "The judge is scheduled a hearing for Monday. Will I need to attend?" "Yes, and be prepared for aggressive questioning. Thornton is no amateur. He'll try to paint you as paranoid, controlling, and manipulative." "I understand. What about the financial injunctions?" "Those remain in place. Your wife cannot access the business accounts or remove additional funds from joint accounts. The transfers she already made are being traced, but recovering those funds may take time." Dom thanked her and ended the call, turning his attention to the day's work at Foster Craftworks. The business had existing commitments that could not be postponed despite his personal turmoil. By mid-morning, he was at the workshop reviewing designs with his team and finalizing shipping arrangements for the Rivera headboard. Around noon, Lydia texted, coming by at 3 o'clock to pack more belongings. "Gregory is sending movers to help. Wyatt will be with me after school." The message contained no questions, only statements. A small power play suggesting she did not need his permission. Dom replied simply, "Fine, I'll be at the house." At 2:30, Dom left the workshop and drove home, arriving just as a moving truck pulled up outside. Gregory's Audi was already in the driveway along with Lydia's BMW. Inside, he found them in the living room, Gregory directing two movers while Lydia sorted through bookshelves. "You're back," Lydia observed coolly. "It's still my house," Dom replied evenly. Gregory stepped forward, his corporate confidence firmly in place. "Let's keep the civil, Foster. We read just here for Lydia's personal belongings. Agreed, personal belongings only. Dom gestured toward the movers reaching for an antique writing desk. That days. It was my grandmother's. It's been in the living room for a decade. Lydia protested. It's part of the household furnishings. It's a family heirloom. Dom countered. Not marital property. Gregory placed a restraining hand on Lydia's arm as she began to object further. Let it go. We'll get you a better desk. The casual display of wealth. The implication that Gregory could simply replace family heirlooms with superior purchases reflected exactly the values that had seduced Lydia away. Dom said nothing, simply marking the moment as another confirmation of the gulf between their worldviews. The packing proceeded with tense efficiency, interrupted only when Wyatt arrived home from school. The teenager entered hesitantly, eyes darting between his parents and Gregory. Hey, kiddo. Gregory greeted him with forced casualness. Ready to help your mom pack some things? Wyatt's discomfort was palpable. I guess. You do not have to. Dom said quietly. This is not your responsibility. No. I want to. Wyatt replied, though his expression suggested otherwise. Where's Abby? At soccer practice, Dom answered. She'll be home around 5 o'clock. Lydia touched Wyatt's shoulder. Come help me with my clothes upstairs. We need to decide what I should take now and what can wait. After they disappeared upstairs, Gregory lingered in the living room, watching the movers with the practiced eye of someone accustomed to directing others' labor. Dom observed him in turn. This man who had coveted his wife, fathered a child with her, and conspired to dismantle his family. This is awkward, Gregory finally said, breaking the silence. But it does not have to be hostile. Does not it? Dom raised an eyebrow. We all adults here. Gregory adjusted his expensive watch. These situations are unfortunate but not uncommon. People grow apart. New connections form. Is that how you justify sleeping with another man's wife? People growing apart? Gregory sighed. Look, Foster, Lydia was unhappy long before I entered the picture. She felt neglected, undervalued. We connected because I saw her, really saw her. In ways you stopped doing years ago, spare me the rationalization. Dom replied coldly. You did not connect with my wife out of some noble recognition of her inner worth. You wanted something that belonged to someone else and you took it. That's a rather primitive view of relationships. Do not you think? Women are not possessions. No, they're not. But commitments are real. Vows matter. Dom stepped closer, and orchestrating a plan to blindside me. Take my children and leverage my business while I was away. That goes beyond an affair into something calculated and cruel. Gregory's confident facade cracked slightly. Those were Lydia's decisions, not mine. Really? So she independently came up with the idea to transfer funds gradually to avoid detection, to document my emotional absence for the courts, to serve papers while I was in Seattle. Dom shook his head. No, Gregory. You guided her every step of the way. Her mother confirmed as much in conversations I recorded. An uneasiness crept into Gregory's expression. I advised her on protecting herself in a difficult situation. Any friend would do the same. Friends do not father children with their friends' wives. The direct reference to Nathan's paternity silenced Gregory momentarily. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its practiced charm. Nathan deserves a father who's present, who prioritizes family over wood and nails. Nathan deserves honesty. Dom countered. Something you and Lydia deprived him of from conception. The conversation was interrupted by footsteps on the stairs. Lydia and Wyatt returning with armloads of clothing. Wyatt looked between the two men, sensing the tension. Everything okay down here? Lydia asked, her eyes narrowing. Just setting some boundaries, Dom replied. Wyatt, would you help your mother with those clothes? I need to check on Nathan with the sitter. As Dom moved toward the nursery, he heard Gregory murmuring to Lydia, their voices too low to distinguish words. The calculated performance continued, presenting a united front, projecting confidence in their new arrangement, attempting to normalize the extraordinary betrayal they had engineered. In the nursery, Dom found the sitter, Jenny, rocking Nathan gently. The baby was awake but content, studying his surroundings with the curious intensity of infants. Dom thanked Jenny and took over, settling into the rocking chair with Nathan in his arms. Looking down at the child, this innocent caught in the crossfire of adult deception. Dom felt a complex mixture of emotions. Biologically, Nathan was not his son, but for 4 months, Dom had rocked him to sleep, changed his diapers, walked the floors with him during colloquinates. Those bonds were not erased by DNA. You deserve better than this, Dom whispered to the baby. Better than lies and schemes and adults who put their desires above your needs. Nathan gurgled and grabbed at Dom's finger, his tiny hand wrapping around it with surprising strength. The gesture, simple and instinctive, cemented Dom's resolve to protect this child regardless of biology. When he returned to the living room, the movers were loading the last of Lydia's designated belongings. Gregory was on his phone in the corner while Lydia spoke quietly with Wyatt near the front door. "Nathan should stay with me tonight," Lydia said as Dom approached with the baby. "The penthouse has a room all set up for him. The court order specifies that all children remain in the family home until Monday's hearing." Dom reminded her, "You're welcome to stay here with him if you're concerned. In the guest room, I presume." Lydia's tone was bitter. "It's more comfortable than the sofa." Wyatt looked between his parents uncomfortably. "I could stay too if Nathan's staying. Help out." The offer surprised both Dom and Lydia. After a moment, Lydia shook her head. "No, sweetheart, you come with me as planned. Your father is right. The court order is clear." She reached for Nathan. "Let me hold him before I go at least." Dom handed the baby over without hesitation. Whatever his feelings toward Lydia, he would not use Nathan as a pawn. She cradled the infant close, whispering softly to him, genuine love evident in her expression. Gregory approached, pocketing his phone. "Everything's loaded. We should go before traffic gets worse." "I need another minute," Lydia replied, not looking up from Nathan. Gregory's impatience was visible but contained. "Of course, I'll wait in the car." He turned to Dom with a practiced smile. "Foster, see you Monday at the hearing." After he left, Lydia handed Nathan back to Dom reluctantly. "His formula and diapers are in the usual places. He's been fussy around 2 a.m. lately." "I know," Dom replied. "I've been the one getting up with him most nights." The reminder seemed to sting her. "Right? Well, we should go. Why are you ready?" The teenager hesitated, looking at Dom. "Can I come back to tomorrow? To see Abby and hang out?" "Of course," Dom replied immediately. "This is still your home, Wyatt. Always will be." Something in the simple reassurance seemed to settle the boy. He nodded, grabbing his backpack. "I'll text you tomorrow then." After they left, Dom stood in the suddenly quiet house. Nathan warm against his chest. The first stage of the separation was complete. Physical division of their lives into before and after. The legal battles would continue, but the foundation was laid. Saturday brought Pam's final departure from the house. A process fraught with tension as she attempted repeatedly to speak privately with Abigail and load more belongings than strictly belonged to her. Dom maintained firm boundaries, refusing to engage in arguments, but also preventing her from removing items that were clearly household property. "This isn't over," Pam warned as she prepared to leave. "Lydia may have underestimated you, but I never did. You'll regret making enemies of us." "I did not make enemies, Pam. I exposed a conspiracy." Dom held the door open for her. "There's a difference." With Pam gone, the house felt noticeably lighter. Abigail, who had maintained a stoic facade throughout the morning, visibly relaxed. Even Nathan seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere, napping more peacefully than he had in days. Mid-afternoon brought an unexpected visit from Wyatt, who arrived without texting first. Dom found him on the front porch, a duffel bag at his feet. "Can I stay here tonight?" Wyatt asked without preamble. Dom ushered him inside. "Of course, everything okay?" "Not really." Wyatt dropped his bag in the hallway. "Mom and Gregory it's just weird, okay? They keep trying to act like everything's normal, like we already this happy new family. And grandmother would not stop talking about how much better off we'll be once the divorce is finalized." The honesty was refreshing after months of Wyatt's rehearsed disdain. Dom squeezed his son's shoulder gently. "You do not have to pretend things are okay when they not. Not here." Wyatt nodded, visibly relieved. "Is it okay if I just hang out in my room for a while? I need to think." "Take all the time you need. Dinner's at 6 if you hungry." As Wyatt headed upstairs, Dom reflected on how quickly the dynamics were shifting. Lydia, Gregory, and Pam had spent months crafting a narrative of Dom as the emotionally absent workaholic, conditioning the children to see him through that lens. But without their constant reinforcement, cracks were already appearing in that carefully constructed image. Sunday brought the next confrontation, a scheduled visit from Lydia to see Nathan and Abigail. She arrived alone. Her appearance immaculate as always, but with shadows under her eyes that makeup could not fully conceal. "Where's Wyatt?" she asked immediately upon entering. "He's not answering my texts." "Upstairs, he knows you here." Dom held Nathan, who was reaching for his mother. "He'll come down when he's ready." Lydia took the baby. her relief at holding him evident. "And Abby in the backyard, I'll get her." When Dom returned with Abigail, he found Lydia seated on the sofa, Nathan in her lap, with Wyatt standing awkwardly by the doorway. The tableau of his fractured family struck Dom with unexpected force. This was their new reality. These strained interactions and divided loyalties. "I'll give you some time," Dom said, moving toward his office. "I'll be working if you need anything." "Actually," Lydia said, "I was hoping we could talk about tomorrow's hearing." Dom paused. Without the children present, Lydia nodded, turning to Abigail. "Sweetie, would you take Nathan upstairs for a bit? Show him that new mobile in your room." After the children left, Lydia's carefully maintained composure slipped. "This has gone too far, Dom. The lawyers, the court orders. It's becoming a war. A war you planned and initiated." Dom reminded her. "I just changed the timeline. I know I hurt you. The affair with Gregory was a mistake in how it happened. But my unhappiness was real. You were absent for years, physically present, but emotionally miles away. That's the narrative you created to justify your actions." Dom replied, remaining standing while she sat. "But it does not align with reality. I built a business to support this family. I was home every night, attended school events, coached Wyatt's baseball team for 3 years, and spent every weekend in your workshop. Missed family vacations for trade shows. Came home too exhausted to engage. I worked hard. I want to apologize for that." Dom leaned against the doorframe. "But I was here, Lydia. You chose to see my work as competition rather than contribution." She looked away. "Maybe. But that does not change where we are now. Gregory's lawyers are pushing for an aggressive strategy. They want to depose your employees' clients. Everyone who can speak to your work habits and priorities. Let them. The truth does not frighten me. It should." Lydia met his gaze directly. "Because they twist it. Every late night becomes neglect. Every missed dinner becomes abandonment. Every business success becomes evidence of prioritizing work over family." "Why are you telling me this?" Dom asked, studying her. "Tactical advice seems out of character given the circumstances." Lydia sighed. "Because I do not want the children hurt more than necessary. This scorched earth approach will drag them into depositions. Force them to take sides publicly. Then withdraw your challenge to the temporary orders. Accept the structured separation we've begun. Let the process unfold without the theatrics." Gregory would not agree to that. A flash of something, frustration perhaps, crossed her features. "He sees this as a negotiation, a business deal to be won." "And what do you see it as?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. After a moment, she replied, "The end of something that should have been better for both of us." The answer contained more honesty than Dom had expected. He nodded slowly. "Tell Gregory his aggressive strategy will only reveal more than he wants exposed. My attorney has evidence we have not yet submitted. Evidence that would be deeply embarrassing for both of you if made public." Lydia paled slightly. "What evidence?" "Financial records showing his involvement in hiding marital assets. Text messages outlining your plans in detail. Recordings of conversations between you, Gregory, and your mother planning to establish a false narrative about my relationship with the children. You rebluffing. Am I? You underestimated me once, Lydia. I would not advise doing it again." She studied him, searching for signs of deception and finding none. "You've changed." "No, you just never really knew me." Dom straightened. "I'll give you privacy with the children now. Consider what I've said about tomorrow's hearing." Dom retreated to his office, leaving Lydia to process his warning. He had no desire to drag the children through a protracted legal battle, but he would not surrender to intimidation tactics or allow Gregory's resources to dictate the terms of their separation. Later that evening, after Lydia had left and the children were settled, Dom received a text from an unknown number. "This is Gregory. We need to talk man-to-man before tomorrow's hearing. Meet me at Riverfront Park near the boathouse, 9 p.m. Come alone." The request was unexpected but not entirely surprising. Gregory likely wanted to assess Dom's resolve directly, perhaps attempt to intimidate him without lawyers present. Dom considered refusing but recognized the potential value in understanding his opponent's mindset before the hearing. He arranged for Hank to come stay with the children and drove to the park, arriving precisely at 9 p.m. The area near the boathouse was deserted at this hour, illuminated only by scattered path lighting. Gregory's tall figure was visible at the railing overlooking the river. "Foster," Gregory acknowledged as Dom approached. "Appreciate you coming. What's this about Hollister?" Direct as always, Gregory turned, leaning against the railing. "I wanted to talk without the lawyers and their billable hours." Find a reasonable path forward. I'm listening. This situation has become unnecessarily adversarial. We both successful businessmen. We should be able to negotiate terms that work for everyone. Dom remained silent, waiting for the actual proposal. Here's what I'm thinking, Gregory continued. You keep your business entirely. No division of those assets. You keep the house. In exchange, Lydia gets primary custody of the children with generous visitation for you. We handle the transition privately without further court appearances or public disputes. And Nathan, Gregory hesitated. We acknowledge the biological reality privately. You maintain a relationship with him if you wish. But legally he would be established as my son. And the money Lydia transferred from our accounts. A fair settlement amount that acknowledges her contributions to your success. Gregory straightened. This is generous, Foster. More than most men would offer in my position. Dom studied the man before him. Confident, accustomed to controlling negotiations, certain of his superior position. Your position being what exactly? The man who had an affair with my wife. Fathered a child he allowed another man to believe was his. And conspired to abscond with 3 children who are not legally his. Gregory's expression hardened. My position as the man with considerably more resources to fight a protracted legal battle. The man whose name opens doors your craftsman hands never could. There it is, Dom said quietly. The contempt behind the charm. You never saw me as an equal, did you? Just an obstacle to be removed. This is not personal. It became personal when you helped plan to take my children while I was away on business. Dom stepped closer. That was not just an affair, Gregory. That was calculated cruelty. Look, Foster. No, you look. I'm not interested in your generous offer. I'm not afraid of your resources or connections. And I'm not willing to negotiate away my children's stability for your convenience. Gregory's facade of reasonableness dropped entirely. You're making a mistake. My attorneys will eviscerate you tomorrow. Every failing as a husband and father will be dragged into the light. And every detail of your conspiracy will be entered into public record. Dom countered. Every text, every recording, every financial transfer. How will that play with your investors? Your social circle? Your ex-wife who still sits on the board of your foundation. The mention of his ex-wife visibly startled Gregory. Dom pressed the advantage. Yes, I did my research too. Carolyn Hollister received a substantial settlement after your last infidelity scandal. How will she react to evidence you were planning to establish a new family while still negotiating amendments to your divorce agreement with her? Gregory's face flushed with anger. You've been investigating me? Thoroughly. Just as you investigated me before targeting my wife and family. Dom turned to leave. See you in court tomorrow, Gregory. Come prepared for full disclosure. As Dom walked away, Gregory called after him. This is not over, Foster. Dom did not respond. The confrontation had confirmed what he already suspected. Gregory's confidence was rooted in resources rather than righteousness. Like many wealthy men, he believed everything had a price. Every problem a financial solution. He did not understand that some things, once broken, could not be purchased anew. Dom drove home through the quiet Sunday night streets, his mind clear and focused. Tomorrow's hearing would be the next battleground. But tonight had revealed Gregory's weakness. His arrogance and belief that wealth could overcome all obstacles. It was a weakness Dom intended to exploit. Chapter 7, Setting the Foundation. Monday morning arrived with unexpected developments. Dom had just finished breakfast with the children when his phone rang. Rhys Blackwell calling with news. The hearing's been postponed. She informed him without preamble. Your wife's attorney filed a request for continuance citing need for additional preparation time. Gregory's doing, do not surmise. Our conversation last night must have rattled him. What conversation? Rhys' voice sharpened. You spoke with Hollister without counsel present. Dom explained the park meeting and Gregory's attempted negotiation. Rhys was silent for a moment before responding. Risky but potentially useful. His retreat suggests your countermeasures are working. She paused. There's more. We've received a modified proposal from Thornton. They're no longer contesting the temporary possession order or financial injunctions. Instead, they re-proposing mediation rather than litigation. A complete reversal from their aggressive strategy. Exactly. Whatever you said to Hollister clearly had an impact. Rhys sounded impressed despite her professional caution. How do you want to proceed? Dom considered the implications. Accept the mediation offer but maintain our position on all substantive issues. No concessions on custody or financial matters. Understood. I'll arrange a mediation session for later this week. She hesitated. Dom, this change in tactics suggests they reconcerned about something beyond what we've already disclosed. What else do you have? Insurance. Dom replied simply. Information I prefer not to use unless necessary. After the call, Dom informed the children that the court proceedings had been delayed, attempting to frame it positively as adults working toward solutions. Wyatt, surprisingly, seemed relieved rather than disappointed. So you and Mom are actually talking instead of fighting in court? He asked. We're retrying a different approach. Dom confirmed. One that might be less difficult for everyone. Abigail looked up from her cereal. Does this mean things might go back to normal? The hope in her voice twisted something in Dom's chest. Not normal as it was before, honey. But maybe we can find a new normal that works for everyone. After getting the children off to school and arranging care for Nathan, Dom drove to Foster Craftworks. His business had necessarily taken a back seat during the personal crisis, but with the immediate legal confrontation postponed, he could refocus on operations. Hank greeted him with obvious relief. Good to have you back, boss. The Nakamura delivery went smoothly, but we've got 3 new commission requests waiting for your review. Thanks for holding down the fort. Dom followed Hank to his office. Any word from Lydia or her mother? Not directly, but there's been some chatter among clients. Hank looked uncomfortable. Gregory Hollister has apparently been reaching out to several of your high-profile customers. Subtle inquiries about their satisfaction with your work, timelines, pricing. Dom nodded, unsurprised. He's looking for leverage. Business complaints he can use against me in negotiations. That's what I figured. But he's finding the opposite. The Rivera's actually called yesterday specifically to commend the headboard delivery and installation. Said it exceeded their expectations. Good to hear. Keep documenting all client communications, positive or negative. Could be relevant later. Dom spent the morning reviewing designs and consulting with his craftsmen. The familiar rhythm of the workshop providing a needed counterpoint to the chaos of his personal life. Around noon, his phone buzzed with a text from Lydia. Can we talk? Alone. No lawyers. The cafe on Hawthorne at 2 o'clock. The request was unexpected. Lydia had been operating through intermediaries since the confrontation at the house. After consideration, Dom replied, I'll be there. The cafe was a neutral location they had frequented early in their marriage before children complicated their schedules. Dom arrived precisely at 2 o'clock to find Lydia already seated in a corner booth, a mug of tea untouched before her. She looked up as he approached, her expression unreadable. Thank you for coming, she said as Dom sat opposite her. What's this about Lydia? She took a deep breath. Gregory and I had a significant disagreement last night. About the approach to the hearing, about Nathan, about everything really. Dom waited, allowing her to continue without interruption. He wanted to use the children as leverage against you. Suggested having Wyatt testify about your absence from his life. Using Nathan's paternity to humiliate you publicly. She looked down at her mug. I refused. Why? Dom asked simply. Because it was wrong, because the children have been through enough. She met his gaze, and because despite everything, you do not deserve that. Dom studied her face, searching for signs of manipulation or performance. Finding none, he nodded once. I appreciate that. Gregory does not understand why I would not fight dirty. He says I'm being naive, that you would not show the same restraint. She hesitated. Will you? I have no interest in hurting the children to punish you or Gregory. Dom replied carefully. But I would not surrender their well-being to protect your reputation either. That's fair. Lydia twisted her wedding ring. A habit Dom recognized for moments of genuine distress. Dom, I need to ask you something. The recordings you mentioned, the ones with Mother and me discussing everything. How long were you listening? Long enough. Since the night I built Nathan's crib. Pain flashed across her features. You heard me say you were just a paycheck with hands. That I never loved you. Yes, I need you to know that was not true. I did love you for many years. I just lost sight of it somewhere along the way. She looked away. Mother and Gregory, they encouraged a certain narrative. It became easier to believe I'd never been happy than to acknowledge I'd thrown away something valuable. Dom absorbed this, feeling neither vindication nor forgiveness. Simply recognition of a truth he'd already intuitive. Why tell me this now? Because I'm trying to find my own voice again. Between Mother's bitterness and Gregory's ambition, I've been speaking their words, not mine. She leaned forward slightly, and because I want to find a path forward that does not destroy everything we built, especially for the children. What are you proposing? Honesty. Starting with Nathan. She took a deep breath. I want to acknowledge Gregory as his biological father, but with you maintaining a relationship as the man who has been his father since birth. Shared custody of Abigail, with her primary residence being wherever she feels most comfortable. An acknowledgement of Wyatt's age and right to choose his own arrangements. The proposal was surprisingly reasonable, more balanced than Dom had expected given Gregory's influence. In Gregory, how does he feel about these terms? Lydia's expression hardened slightly. He does not know I'm here. After our fight last night, I realized I needed to make decisions independent of both him and Mother. Bold move, Dom observed. What prompted this sudden independence? Not sudden. Overdue. Lydia sighed. Gregory showed his true colors when he suggested using the children against you. It reminded me of conversations with Mother, planning to document your emotional absence. Both of them viewing the children as tools rather than people. Dom considered her words, weighing them against the patterns of manipulation he'd observed over months. Something felt different, an authenticity in her directness that had been missing in their recent interactions. I'll consider your proposal, he said finally, but I need to be clear. I would not return to our marriage. That chapter is closed. I know. She nodded, something like resignation settling over her features. I'm not asking for reconciliation, just humanity and how we dismantle what we built. I can work with that. Dom stood. Is there anything else? Yes. Lydia looked up at him. I'm sorry, Dom. Not just for the affair or the deception about Nathan. I'm sorry for allowing Mother and Gregory to twist my perception of you in our marriage. For believing their narrative over my own experience. The apology was unexpected. Lydia rarely admitted fault in their marriage. Dom nodded once, acknowledging without accepting. I'll have Reese contact Thornton about the mediation. He said. We'll work from there. As Dom left the cafe, his phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. He answered to find Gregory's voice. Tight, with barely controlled anger. Whereas Lydia? He demanded without greeting. Hello to you too. Gregory. Dom replied calmly, continuing toward his truck. Cut the crap, Foster. I know she's meeting you. What are you playing at? Nothing. Lydia requested a conversation. I agreed. Without lawyers present? After all the legal maneuvering? I do not buy it. Dom reached his truck, leaning against it as he spoke. Not everything is a scheme, Gregory. Sometimes it's just two parents discussing their children's welfare. Stay away from her. Gregory warned. This situation is complex enough without you trying to manipulate her emotions. The accusation was so ironic Dom almost laughed. Projection is a fascinating psychological phenomenon. You should look it up. Is this amusing to you? Gregory's voice rose. You've lost, Foster. Your marriage is over. Your wife loves me. Your son is biologically mine. The best you can hope for is a dignified exit. If you actually believe that, Dom replied evenly, you would not sound so desperate right now. You smug bastard. You think because you've delayed the inevitable with your recordings and threat that you've won something. But I have resources you can imagine. Connections that can destroy your little furniture business overnight. Dom have been waiting for this. The mask of reasonable businessmen slipping to reveal the entitled bully beneath. Careful, Gregory. Threats of that nature sound remarkably like attempted extortion. I'd hate for that to be added to the court record alongside the evidence of your conspiracy with my wife and mother-in-law. There's no conspiracy. Gregory snapped. Just a woman escaping an emotionally barren marriage. A woman who suddenly decided to empty joint accounts, document her husband's supposed neglect and disappear with 3 children while he was away on business. All without influence or assistance from her lover or mother. Dom's voice remained steady. That's the story you want to present to the court. Gregory's silence was telling. I thought not. Dom continued. Look, I have no interest in destroying you or Lydia. I just want what's fair for my children and the business I built. If you can accept that, we can resolve this without further escalation. And if I see a not, then I'll defend what's mine with every resource at my disposal. Dom's tone hardened. And unlike you, I do not make threats I see a not fulfill. The call ended abruptly. Gregory hanging up without response. Dom pocketed his phone, processing the interaction. Gregory was rattled. First by Dom's South revelations at the park. Now by Lydia's independent meeting. The united front was fracturing. Dom drove back to Foster Craftworks. Mind working through the implications of Lydia's proposed terms and Gregory's reaction. By the time he arrived at the workshop, he had formulated his next steps. Inside, he found Hank with an unexpected visitor. Pam Wentfield. perched stiffly on the edge of a chair in the reception area. Your mother-in-law insisted on waiting. Hank explained apologetically. Said it was urgent. It's fine, Dom assured him. We can talk in my office. Pam. Once the door closed behind them, Pam did not waste time on pleasantries. What did you say to Lydia? She's suddenly talking about scaling back the divorce demands, accepting shared custody, even acknowledging her role in the breakdown of the marriage. Perhaps she's found her conscience. Dom suggested, settling behind his desk. Do not be facetious. You've done something. Threatened her, manipulated her emotions. Something. Dom studied his mother-in-law. This woman who had cultivated resentment and encouraged betrayal while living under his roof. Actually, Pam, I simply listened. Lydia requested a meeting. She shared her thoughts. I acknowledged them. I do not believe you. That's your prerogative. Pam leaned forward. Listen to me carefully, Dominic. Lydia deserves better than the life you provided. Gregory can give her opportunities you never could. Is that what this has always been about? Your vision of what Lydia deserves versus what she chose. Dom's question hit its mark. Pam flinched slightly. Tell me something, Pam. Were you this involved in orchestrating the end of your own marriage to Lydia's father? Color drained from Pam's face. That's none of your business. Perhaps not. But the pattern is revealing. Encouraging your daughter to see flaws and limitations where she once saw love and commitment. Convincing her that another man's resources would fulfill her more than her husband's dedication. You know nothing about my marriage. I know Gerald left when Lydia was 15. I know he cited your poisonous influence in the divorce papers. I know you received a settlement that lasted barely 5 years before you began relying on Lydia for support. Dom kept his tone matter of fact rather than accusatory. What I do not know is why you want to recreate that pattern in your daughter's life. Pam stood abruptly. I do not have to listen to this amateur psychoanalysis. No, you do not. But you should consider why Lydia is suddenly making decisions independently. Why she's questioning the narrative you and Gregory constructed. Dom remains seated. People eventually recognize manipulation, Pam. Even when it comes from those they love. You think you so clever, Pam hissed. So morally superior. But you just a man who lost his wife to someone more successful, more cultured, more worthy of her. If that were true, Dom replied calmly, you would not be here trying to reassert control. You'd be celebrating your victory. Without response, Pam stormed out, slamming the office door behind her. Dom sat motionless, reflecting on the interaction. Another crack in the united front. Pam clearly disturbed by Lydia's sudden independence. The mediation session was scheduled for Thursday morning at Reese Blackwell's office. Dom spent the intervening days focused on work and the children, maintaining stability in their disrupted routine. Wyatt continued dividing his time between Dom's house and Gregory's penthouse. But Dom noticed his son spending increasingly more nights at home. Abigail remained primarily with Dom, visiting Lydia only for supervised outings that pointedly did not include Gregory or Pam. Thursday arrived with a sense of cautious possibility. Dom dressed carefully, professional but not formal, choosing clothes that reflected his identity as a craftsman rather than attempting to match Gregory's corporate polish. This negotiation would proceed on his terms, with his authentic self presented without apology. At Reese's office, Dom found Lydia already seated in the conference room. Maxwell Thornton beside her. Gregory was conspicuously absent. Mr. Hollister has elected not to attend, Thornton explained as Dom and recentered. As he is not legally a party to the divorce proceedings, we agreed his presence might complicate rather than facilitate discussion. The strategic retreat was telling. Gregory was removing himself from direct confrontation while maintaining influence through Thornton. Dom nodded, taking his seat across from Lydia. Before we begin, Lydia said, her voice steadier than Dom had expected. I want to state for the record that I accept primary responsibility for the breakdown of our marriage. My affair with Gregory Hollister and the subsequent deception regarding Nathan's paternity constituted a fundamental breach of trust. Thornton looked uncomfortable but did not contradict his client. Reese raised an eyebrow slightly, clearly surprised by the unambiguous admission. Furthermore, Lydia continued, I acknowledge that the financial transfers from our joint accounts were inappropriate and undertaken without Dom's knowledge or consent. I am prepared to return those funds as part of our settlement. My client's candor is admirable. Thornton interjected smoothly and reflects her desire to resolve these proceedings amicably and with minimal impact on the children. Appreciated, Reese replied. My client shares that goal. The mediation progressed with surprising efficiency. Lydia's proposed terms shared custody of Abigail with flexibility based on her preferences, acknowledgement of Wyatt's autonomy in choosing his living arrangements, and legal recognition of Nathan's biological paternity while preserving Dom's relationship with him, formed the foundation of the discussion. Financial matters proved more straightforward than anticipated. Dom would retain full ownership of Foster Craftworks while Lydia would receive a fair but not excessive settlement from their personal assets. The family home would remain Dom's property with proceeds from the eventual sale of their vacation property going to Lydia. After 2 hours, the outline of a comprehensive agreement had emerged. Reese would draft the formal documentation for review by both parties, with a follow-up meeting scheduled for the following week. As they prepared to conclude, Lydia requested a brief private conversation with Dom. Reese and Thornton agreed, stepping outside to discuss procedural details. "Thank you," Lydia said once they were alone, "for being willing to negotiate reasonably despite everything. It's not about us anymore." Dom replied. "It's about minimizing the damage to the children." "I know. But still," she hesitated. "There's something else you should know. Gregory and I were taking a step back." Dom raised an eyebrow, surprised despite himself. "I assumed you were living together." "I was. I'm not anymore." Lydia looked down at her hands. "After our fight about using the children against you, I started seeing other patterns. Controlling behaviors. Expectations that I defer to his judgment rather than form my own opinions. Like with your mother." "Yes." She met his gaze directly. "I spent my entire adult life living between these two dominating voices. Mother's bitterness and now Gregory's ambition. I need to find my own voice again." Dom nodded, understanding without necessarily sympathizing. "What about Nathan?" "Gregory will be part of his life. But not as the primary influence. I've realized that biological connection does not automatically qualify someone as a good parent." She smiled sadly. "You taught me that ironically. You've been more of a father to Nathan in 4 months than Gregory has shown any capacity to be." The admission touched something in Dom. He thought hardened beyond reach. Not forgiveness. The betrayal ran too deep for that. But recognition of Lydia's capacity for growth and self-awareness. "I hope you find what you were looking for," he said simply. "I'm not expecting reconciliation." She clarified quickly. "I know that it's not possible after what I've done. I want you to know I'm trying to make better choices now. For the children. For myself." Dom nodded, neither encouraging nor dismissing her stated intentions. "We should join the others. Finalize the details." As they left the conference room, Dom felt a distinct shift in the dynamic between them. Not friendship or forgiveness, but a measured based on mutual interest in their children's welfare. It was more than he'd expected when this process began, though far less than what their marriage had once promised. The following week brought the formal signing of the separation agreement. Gregory attended this meeting, his corporate mask firmly in place, but with a distinct chill in his interactions with Lydia. Dom noted the tension between them, but maintained professional distance, focusing on the legal proceedings rather than interpersonal dynamics. With the agreement signed, the practical implementation began. Lydia found an apartment equal distant between the family home and Gregory's penthouse, a symbolic statement of her newfound independence. Custody arrangements fell into place with surprising smoothness. The children adapting to the new normal with resilience Dom found both heartening and sobering. Throughout this transition, Dom maintained his focus on 2 priorities: his children's emotional stability and his business's continued growth. Foster Craftworks had weathered the personal storm remarkably well, with commissions continuing to flow in despite Gregory's attempts to undermine Dom's professional reputation. 1 month after the separation agreement, Dom received an unexpected text from Gregory. "We should talk. Civilly. For Nathan's sake, if nothing else." The message surprised Dom. Gregory had maintained a careful distance since the formal agreement, communicating only through lawyers or Lydia when necessary. After consideration, Dom agreed to meet at a neutral location, a downtown restaurant with private booths that would allow conversation without undue exposure. Gregory arrived precisely on time, impeccably dressed as always but with subtle signs of strain around his eyes. He ordered a scotch before speaking, taking a substantial swallow before meeting Dom's gaze. "I underestimated you," he said without preamble. "A mistake I rarely make in business or personal matters." Dom said nothing, waiting for Gregory to reveal his purpose. You could have destroyed me, Gregory continued. The recordings, the financial documentation, if made public, they would have damaged my standing with investors, social connections, even family members still tied to me through my previous marriage. That was not my goal, Dom replied simply. No, your goal was protecting what's yours, your children, your business, your dignity. I can respect that, even if I do not like the outcome. Gregory took another drink. I'm not here to apologize. What happened between Lydia and me was real, regardless of how it started. Why are you here, then? Gregory set down his glass carefully, to establish parameters for our inevitable ongoing connection through Nathan. He is biologically mine, but you've been his father in practice. That creates a complexity neither of us can wish away. What are you proposing? A truce. Not friendship. That's neither possible nor desirable, but mutual respect for the roles we both play in his life. Gregory leaned forward slightly. Lydia and I are reassessing our relationship, but regardless of where that leads, Nathan deserves stability and consistency from the adults in his life. Dom considered the offer, weighing Gregory's apparent sincerity against his demonstrated capacity for manipulation. A truce requires trust. You have not earned that. Fair enough, but consider this. I have as much interest in Nathan's welfare as you do. Biologically, he is my only child. I'm not in a position to have others. Gregory's expression revealed genuine vulnerability for the first time. Whatever my failures in how this situation developed, I do not want him caught in ongoing hostility. The admission shifted Dom's perception slightly, not toward forgiveness, but toward recognition of their shared interest in Nathan's well-being. I can agree to civility for Nathan's sake. Nothing more. That's sufficient. Gregory signaled for the check. One more thing. Those business contacts I approached about your work. I'll clarify that any negative impressions I may have conveyed were unwarranted. Unnecessary. My work speaks for itself. Still a gesture of good faith. Gregory stood. Foster will never like each other. But we do not have to be enemies. Dom remained seated as Gregory left, analyzing the interaction. The man was adapting to changed circumstances. His relationship with Lydia compromised. His victory over Dom reversed. His confident control of the situation undermined. Whether genuine concern for Nathan motivated his peace offering, or simply pragmatic acceptance of reality, remained to be seen. Chapter 8. Precision Assembly. 6 months passed, bringing the rhythms of a new normal. Dom's life reorganized around his children and his craft. Finding balance he had not realized was possible during the turbulent years of his marriage's slow disintegration. Foster craft works thrived, with several high-profile commissions bringing national attention to Dom's distinctive designs. The custody arrangements had stabilized into a workable pattern. Abigail divided her time between Dom's house and Lydia's apartment, gradually spending more time with her mother, as initial anger gave way to tentative reconciliation. Wyatt, now 17, maintained his official residence with Dom, but frequently visited Lydia, developing an independent appropriate to his approaching adulthood. Nathan's situation had evolved with surprising grace. At 10 months old, he recognized both Dom and Gregory as significant figures in his life, responding to both men with equal enthusiasm. The adults maintained their agreed civility, exchanging the child without drama, and occasionally even participating together in milestone moments like Nathan's first steps. Lydia and Gregory's relationship had indeed been reassessed, resulting in a measured friendship rather than romantic partnership. Dom observed the change without comment or judgment, focused on his own path forward rather than their choices. Pam had retreated to Florida. Her influence significantly diminished after Lydia began recognizing the toxic patterns in their relationship. She still called weekly, but her attempts to rekindle animosity toward Dom now fell on unreceptive ears. On a crisp autumn Saturday, Dom was in his home workshop with Abigail, teaching her basic woodworking techniques. At 12, she showed remarkable aptitude for the craft, her artistic sensibility complementing Dom's technical expertise. Like this, Dad? She asked, carefully guiding the palm sander along the grain of a small jewelry box they were creating together. Perfect, Dom confirmed, watching with pride. UV got a natural feel for the wood. The doorbell interrupted their session. Dom wiped his hands on a shop towel and went to answer, finding Lydia on the porch with Nathan in her arms. "Sorry to drop by unannounced," she said. "Gregory had an emergency meeting, and I promised Wyatt I'd attend his debate tournament this afternoon. I was hoping you might take Nathan a day early." Of course. Dom reached for the baby, who came to him willingly. "Everything okay? You seem stressed." Lydia hesitated, then sighed. "Just a lot happening at once. The gallery position is demanding more hours than expected. Mother's pressuring me to visit Florida," and she trailed off, clearly editing her thoughts, and Dom prompted, genuinely curious rather than antagonistic, "And I'm still figuring out who I am without being defined by someone else." She smiled ruefully. "Turns out that's harder than expected at 38. Dom nodded, understanding the journey she described without needing to participate in it. "Abby S. in the workshop, want to say hello before you go." "D like that." Lydia followed Dom inside, Nathan babbling happily in his arms. In the workshop, Abigail looked up with a mixture of surprise and pleasure. "Mom, look what we're remaking." She proudly held up the partially completed jewelry box. "It's beautiful, honey." Lydia examined the craftsmanship appreciatively. "Your father's teaching you well. Dad says I have a good eye for proportion." Abigail beamed. "Maybe I could help at your gallery sometime? Learn about the art side of things." The request revealed how far they'd come. Abigail's seeing her parent's separate worlds as complementary, rather than competing. Lydia's eyes met Dom's briefly, shared recognition passing between them. "D love that." Lydia replied warmly. "We could arrange something for your winter break." After Lydia left for Wyatt's debate tournament, Dom settled Nathan in his playpen near the workshop and resumed the lesson with Abigail. As they worked, his phone buzzed with a text from Hank. "Hollister just stopped by the shop. Asked to speak with you Monday, said it's important." Dom frowned, setting the phone aside. Gregory rarely sought direct contact, preferring to communicate through Lydia or formal channels regarding Nathan. A direct approach to Dom's workplace suggested something significant had changed. Monday morning, Dom arrived at Foster Craft Works earlier than usual, wanting to address whatever Gregory needed before the workday properly began. He found the man waiting in the parking lot, leaning against his silver Audi with uncharacteristic tension evident in his posture. "Foster," Gregory acknowledged as Dom approached. "Thanks for making time. What's this about?" Dom unlocked the workshop door, gesturing Gregory inside. Once in Dom's office, Gregory declined the offered seat, choosing instead to stand near the window overlooking the production floor. "I've been offered a position in Chicago. Senior Development Director for a major real estate firm. It's a significant opportunity." Dom waited, sensing there was more to this announcement than professional courtesy. "I'd be relocating within the month," Gregory continued, "which obviously complicates matters regarding Nathan." "I imagine it does." Dom replied neutrally. "Have you discussed this with Lydia?" "Yes." She's not receptive to the idea of Nathan traveling between Portland and Chicago regularly. Believes it would be too disruptive for his development. Gregory turned to face Dom directly. "She suggested an alternative arrangement. When I wanted to discuss with you before proceeding." "I'm listening." Lydia proposed that Nathan remained primarily in Portland, with me visiting monthly and having extended time during holidays and summer breaks. Gregory's expression revealed complexity beyond his usual controlled facade. She also suggested that you continue in your current role in his life, maintaining the stability and consistency he's developed. The proposal was unexpected. A significant concession from a man who had initially planned to claim Nathan entirely as his own. Dom considered the implications carefully before responding. "Why are you agreeing to this? Nathan is biologically your son. Most men would fight for custody." Gregory sighed, looking momentarily older than his years. "Because Lydia is right about the disruption. Because my new position would involve extensive travel, limiting my time with him regardless. And because he hesitated. Because I've observed your interaction with him. The bond you form despite knowing he's not biologically yours. It's instructive. Meaning I've had to reconsider what fatherhood actually entails." Gregory ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. A rare gesture of genuine emotion. Biology is the easiest part. The daily commitment, the consistent presence, the willingness to prioritize his needs. Those are the elements I'm not currently positioned to provide. Dom absorbed this admission, recognizing its significance coming from a man as proud as Gregory. What exactly are you proposing? A formal amendment to our current arrangement. Legal acknowledgement of my biological paternity, but with primary physical custody remaining in Portland, shared between you and Lydia as it currently stands. Gregory straightened, composure returning. I would maintain regular contact and financial support with scheduled visitation as my position allows. And if your circumstances change again, if you decide later you want more direct involvement, we adjust accordingly through proper legal channels rather than manipulation or conflict. Gregory met Dom's gaze directly. I've learned from this experience, Foster, not pleasantly but thoroughly. Dom considered the proposal, weighing its implications for Nathan's well-being and his own connection to the child he raised from birth. I'll need to discuss this with my attorney. Review the specific terms. Of course, Thornton is drafting the documentation now. We can proceed at whatever pace you're comfortable with. Gregory moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I misjudged you from the beginning. Assumed your work-focused life meant you were emotionally unavailable to your family. Recent months have demonstrated otherwise. It was not your judgment to make. Dom replied simply. No, it was not. Gregory offered his hand, a gesture of professional respect rather than personal reconciliation. I'll have Thornton send the proposal to your attorney this afternoon. Dom accepted the handshake briefly, maintaining the civil détente they established for Nathan's sake. After Gregory left, Dom sat at his desk, processing the unexpected development. The man who had conspired to take Dom's family was now effectively entrusting his biological son to Dom's care, an irony not lost on either of them. That evening, Dom received a call from Lydia, clearly following up on Gregory's conversation. Did Gregory speak with you today? She asked without preamble. Yes, about his Chicago position and the proposed custody adjustment. And what do you think? Dom considered his response carefully. I think it's a practical solution given the circumstances. I'll need to review the legal details, but the general concept seems workable. That's remarkably generous of you. Lydia's voice held genuine surprise. After everything that happened with Nathan's paternity, I would not have blamed you for stepping back completely. Nathan is not responsible for his parent's choices. Dom replied simply. He deserves stability and care regardless of biology. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, Lydia admitted, about choices and consequences. About the difference between the life I thought I wanted with Gregory and the reality of what that would have meant. Dom remained silent, neither encouraging nor discouraging her reflection. I nearly destroyed something valuable because I could not recognize its worth, she continued. Not just our marriage, though that's irreparable now, but the foundation we've built for the children, the mutual respect that should have guided even difficult decisions. Why are you telling me this, Lydia? She sighed, because I owe you the acknowledgement, because the children deserve to see that adults can recognize their failures without excusing them, and because she hesitated, because I need to say it out loud to make it real in my own mind. I appreciate the recognition, Dom said after a moment. It does not change what happened, but it matters nonetheless. I know her voice studied. The gallery is hosting an exhibition next Friday evening. Wyatt and Abby are already planning to attend. If you wanted to join them, it would mean a lot to the children. The invitation represented a significant step, the first social event where they would all be present as a reconfigured family unit. Dom considered briefly before responding. I'll be there for the children. 2 weeks later, Dom attended the gallery exhibition with Wyatt and Abigail, maintaining polite interaction with Lydia, while primarily focusing on supporting the children's engagement with the artistic displays. The evening proceeded with surprising ease, the formerly fractured family navigating their new dynamic with growing confidence. As they prepared to leave, Wyatt pulled Dom aside. His expression unusually serious for a teenager. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course, how did you do it? Stay so. I do not know. Control through everything. When you found out about Mom and Gregory, about Nathan, about all of it, how did you not just explode? Dom considered the question thoughtfully. I focused on what mattered most, protecting you and Abby, preserving what I built. Anger would have been satisfying in the moment, but destructive to those goals. But were not you hurt? Betrayed? Deeply, Dom met his son's gaze directly, but I've learned something important in my work, Wyatt. When you're rebuilding something to last, you see not rush the process or skip steps because you're impatient or emotional. The same applies to dismantling what needs to be taken apart. Wyatt nodded slowly. I was awful to you. Before all this happened, the things I said, the way I acted. You were influenced by people you trusted, Dom replied. That's understandable. But I should have known better. Should have seen what was really happening. Dom placed a hand on his son's shoulder. You were 16, Wyatt. Still are. Part of growing up is learning to form your own judgments rather than accepting others' perspectives without question. You've done that remarkably well these past months. The simple acknowledgement seemed to ease something in Wyatt's expression. Thanks, Dad. Outside the gallery, as they walked to Dom's truck, Lydia approached hesitantly. Thank you for coming tonight. It meant a lot to the children. And to me, Dom nodded, accepting the gratitude without elaboration. Their relationship had evolved into something functional, if not warm. Co-parents capable of civility and occasional cooperation for their children's benefit. The amendment to Nathan's custody arrangement came through yesterday. Lydia mentioned. Reston contact you? She did. Everything seems in order. Gregory leaves for Chicago next week. Lydia glanced toward the children who were examining a sculpture in the gallery's front window. He's arranged monthly visits as discussed. The first will be Thanksgiving weekend. We'll accommodate that in our holiday planning. Dom assured her. Nathan deserves to know his biological father regardless of our past conflicts. Lydia studied him with something like wonder. You continue to surprise me, Dom. Your capacity for putting Nathan's needs above your own feelings toward Gregory and me. It's not forgiveness, Dom clarified, wanting no misunderstanding. What happened not be undone or forgotten. But Nathan deserves better than to inherit our mistakes. I understand. Lydia nodded, accepting the boundary. Still, your approach has made this transition far easier for all the children than it might have been. As they parted ways that evening, Abigail choosing to spend the night at Lydia's apartment while Wyatt returned home with Dom. There was a sense of provisional peace. Not reconciliation or forgiveness, but a measured coexistence built on pragmatic recognition of their shared responsibility to the children. The following months brought Gregory's relocation to Chicago and the implementation of their adjusted custody arrangement. Nathan, now approaching his first birthday, continued to thrive in the stable environment Dom and Lydia maintained, with Gregory's monthly visits integrated smoothly into his routine. Foster Craftworks expanded, with Dom hiring 2 additional craftsmen to meet growing demand. His reputation for exceptional quality and innovative designs had spread beyond the Pacific Northwest, bringing commissions from across the country and even internationally. Wyatt's senior year progressed with improved academic performance and renewed interest in engineering, a passion he temporarily abandoned during the family turmoil. Dom supported his college applications with quiet pride, noting the return of his son's natural curiosity and analytical mind. Abigail continued dividing her time between households, finding unique connections with each parent, artistic exploration with Lydia, craftsmanship with Dom. The jewelry box they had built together held pride of place in her room, symbolizing the possibility of creating beauty from difficult circumstances. In December, a year after the confrontation that had changed everything, Dom received an unexpected delivery at the workshop, a small package from Gregory's Chicago address. Inside he found a finely crafted wooden block with Nathan's handprint pressed into its surface, accompanied by a simple note, "For the man who showed me what fatherhood actually means." Nathan's first birthday approaches. We both have reason to celebrate his life. The gesture was not friendship or absolute, but acknowledgement of a painful journey that had ultimately led to growth for all involved. Dom placed the block on his office shelf, a reminder of how completely circumstances could change through deliberate, strategic response rather than reactive emotion. That evening, Lydia called to discuss holiday arrangements, her voice carrying the now familiar tone of respectful co-parenting rather than intimate connection as they finalized schedules for Christmas and New Year's, coordinating time for all 3 children between households. She paused unexpectedly. Dom, there's something else I wanted to mention. Yes, Mother's coming for Christmas. She's been difficult about the current arrangements. Still believes Gregory and I should have fought harder for full custody. Still questions my decision to pursue independence rather than financial security. Dom waited, sensing there was more to this announcement than mere information. I've told her that if she not respect the boundaries we've established, about speaking negatively about you to the children, about attempting to manipulate family dynamics, she would not be welcome to visit again. Lydia's voice strengthened as she continued. It's taken me too long to recognize the pattern she established, the way she positioned herself between me and every significant relationship in my life. That could not have been an easy conversation, Dom observed. It was not, but it was necessary for me, for the children, for the stability we've managed to create from this situation. Lydia sighed. I wanted you to know because the children will be exposed to her for several days. I've been explicit about my expectations, but Pam rarely changes her approach. Dom finished. I understand. I'll be attentive to any signs of renewed manipulation when the children are with me. Thank you. Relief was evident in her voice. One more thing. Wyatt mentioned you re-attending his debate championship next week. I'll be there too, with Nathan. I just wanted to avoid any awkwardness. We've managed to occupy the same spaces civilly for months now. Dom reminded her. I think we can handle a debate tournament. The conversation ended amicably. Another example of their evolved dynamic, not friends, not enemies, but partners in the complex project of raising children across reconfigured family boundaries. The following week, Dom attended Wyatt's debate championship as planned, arriving early to secure a good seat. The auditorium filled quickly with parents and supporters, creating a buzz of anticipation for the competitive event. Lydia arrived shortly before the debate began. Nathan and her arms and Abigail at her side. She spotted Dom and approached. The children navigating between them with the practiced ease of those accustomed to divided attention. Dad Abigail hugged him enthusiastically. Wyatt says his team is facing the defending champions. He's nervous but trying not to show it. That sounds like your brother. Dom agreed, accepting Nathan as Lydia transferred the now walking toddler to his arms. He'll do well. He's been preparing for weeks. They settled into adjacent seats, maintaining comfortable distance while sharing occasional observations as the debate proceeded. Wyatt performed admirably, his logical arguments and confident delivery helping his team advance to the final round. During the break before finals, Lydia leaned toward Dom. He gets the precise analytical thinking from you. The way he dismantled the opposing team's argument piece by piece, pure Dom Foster methodology. The observation was not flattery but simple recognition of shared traits between father and son. Dom nodded, acknowledging the connection without overplaying its significance. He's finding his own voice, Dom replied. That's what matters most. Abigail, returning from a concession stand run, settled between them. Wyatt says if they win, he wants to celebrate at Vincenzo's. Is that okay with both of you? Can we all go together? The question held no manipulation, just a child's natural desire to share a significant moment with both parents. Dom and Lydia exchanged glances, silent communication passing between them. A momentary return to the partnership that had once been the foundation of their family. If your team wins, absolutely, Dom agreed. We can make that work. Lydia nodded her confirmation and Abigail beamed, pleased with the small victory of normalcy amidst their reconfigured family structure. As the final debate began, Dom observed his oldest son stepping confidently to the podium, ready to present his team's position. Wyatt had weathered the family crisis with remarkable resilience, emerging not unscathed but stronger, more thoughtful, more independent, more aware of the complexities adults navigated. Nathan dozed against Dom's shoulder, his growing weight a reminder of how quickly children developed and changed. In little more than a year, this child had been at the center of revelation and betrayal, custody negotiations, and identity questions. Yet he remained blissfully unaware, secure in the consistent care of adults who had chosen to prioritize his welfare above their personal conflicts. As Wyatt delivered his closing argument with poised conviction, Dom felt a complex satisfaction, not happiness exactly, but confirmation that his strategic response to betrayal had achieved its essential purpose. His family had been irreparably altered but not destroyed. His children were finding their way forward with clarity rather than confusion. His own identity remained intact, neither diminished by deception nor corrupted by vengeful reaction. The journey was not complete. Relationships continued to evolve. Boundaries required ongoing maintenance, wounds healed at their own pace, but the foundation was solid, carefully reconstructed from what could have been merely rubble. Like the finest furniture Dom crafted, this rebuilt life would not erase the damage that had occurred, but would integrate it into a structure both beautiful and functional. Its strength derived from how skillfully the broken pieces had been rejoined. Chapter 9, The Final Finish. 5 years passed, bringing changes both expected and surprising to the restructured Foster family. Wyatt completed engineering school and secured a position with a prestigious firm in Seattle. Close enough for regular visits, but establishing the independence he had grown into. Abigail, now 17, had developed into a remarkable young woman who combined Dom's precision with Lydia's creativity, producing artwork that had already garnered attention from college recruiters. Nathan, at 6, moved between households with the ease of a child who had never known a different arrangement. He recognized Dom, Lydia, and Gregory as the consistent adults in his life. Each relationship distinct, but equally valued in his developing understanding of family. Foster Craftworks had expanded beyond Dom's initial vision, now occupying a larger facility with 8 full-time craftsmen and a 6-month waiting list for custom pieces. Dom had found balance between his dedication to the craft and his commitment to family, a harmony that had eluded him during his marriage but now structured his reconfigured life. Lydia had built her own path as well, advancing from gallery manager to curator, establishing a reputation for discovering emerging artists while maintaining the stable environment she and Dom had created for their children. Her relationship with Pam had evolved into something healthier. Boundaries maintained, manipulation recognized and redirected, the poisonous influence diluted by Lydia's hard-won self-awareness. Gregory remained in Chicago, his monthly visits with Nathan continuing with remarkable consistency. His initial resentment toward Dom had gradually transformed into grudging respect, the two men maintaining civil interaction centered entirely on Nathan's well-being. On a rainy April morning, Dom arrived at his workshop to find an unexpected visitor waiting. Lydia, her expression containing a complexity he had not seen in years. "Sorry to drop by unannounced," she said as he unlocked the door. "I need to talk to you about something important." Inside his office, Dom offered coffee, which Lydia accepted gratefully. She seemed uncharacteristically nervous, fidgeting with her cup before finally speaking. "Gregory called last night. He's been offered a position in Portland, regional director for his firm's new Pacific Northwest division. He'd be relocating permanently within 2 months." Dom processed this information, considering its implications for their carefully balanced arrangements. "That changes the custody logistics significantly." "Yes, he's proposing adjustments to reflect his increased availability." Lydia hesitated. He'd like Nathan to spend alternating weeks with him once he's settled here. The request was reasonable given Gregory's biological connection, yet represented a significant shift in Nathan's routine. Dom had been the consistent father figure in Portland for 6 years, while Gregory's presence had been valued but intermittent. "What do you think is best for Nathan?" Dom asked, setting aside his personal reaction. "That's why I'm here." Lydia set down her coffee. "Nathan thinks of you as his father, Dom. Has since he could form the concept. Gregory is important to him, but you are fundamental to his sense of security and identity." "Biology matters," Dom observed neutrally. "It does. But so does 6 years of daily care, of consistent presence, of being the man who attended every school event, nursed every fever, celebrated every milestone." Lydia met his gaze directly. "I've told Gregory the first would not support a schedule that disrupts Nathan's primary connection to you." The statement surprised Dom. Not because Lydia had advocated for his role in Nathan's life. She had done so consistently for years, but because she was directly opposing Gregory's natural claim to increase time with his biological son. That could not have been an easy conversation, Dom noted. It was not. Gregory believes his biological connection should supersede other considerations now that proximity is no longer an obstacle. Lydia sighed. "He does not understand that parenthood is constructed through thousands of daily interactions, not simply declared through DNA. What does he propose instead?" "That's why I wanted to speak with you directly. I suggested we meet, all 3 of us, to discuss an arrangement that respects everyone's connection to Nathan while prioritizing his stability." Lydia looked uncertain. "Would you be willing to participate in that conversation?" Dom considered the request. After years of carefully maintained boundaries, the proposed meeting represented a shift toward more direct engagement between the 3 adults in Nathan's life. "When and where?" "Next Thursday evening. Neutral location, the conference room at my gallery after closing." Lydia studied his expression. "You're surprised I'm advocating this strongly for your role." "Someone," Dom admitted, "given the history." "The history is precisely why I'm advocating for you." Lydia replied with unexpected intensity. "I watched you build a relationship with Nathan, knowing he was not biologically yours. Watch you prioritize his well-being above your justified anger toward Gregory and me. That commitment deserves recognition and protection." The acknowledgement touched something in Dom he rarely examined. the complex reality that his most profound parental bond had formed with a child conceived in betrayal. He nodded once. "I'll be there Thursday." The meeting occurred as planned. The three adults gathering in the gallery's sleek conference room with carefully neutral expressions and measured greetings. Gregory, now approaching 50 but maintaining the polished appearance that had always characterized him, initiated the conversation with corporate directness. "I appreciate both of you meeting with me." You began. "My return to Portland obviously changes the parameters we've been operating under regarding Nathan. It changes the logistics." Lydia agreed. "Not necessarily the fundamental arrangements that have been working well for Nathan." Gregory frowned slightly. "I've been at a significant disadvantage due to geography. Now that obstacle is removed, it's reasonable to establish more equitable time allocation." "Equitable based on what standard?" Dom asked calmly. "Biology, daily involvement, established relationship, each would yield a different definition of equity." "Biology establishes the fundamental relationship," Gregory countered. "Everything else builds on that foundation." "That has not been Nathan's experience," Lydia observed. "In his daily reality, Dom has been his consistent father figure since birth. You've been an important but intermittent presence." Gregory's expression tightened. "Through circumstances beyond my control, circumstances I'm now correcting by relocating specifically to be more present in my son's life." "A decision I respect," Dom acknowledged. "Nathan benefits from your presence and relationship, but disrupting the stability he's known his entire life seems contrary to his best interests." "What exactly are you proposing then?" Gregory asked, tension evident in his voice. "That I remain a visitor in my own son's life despite living in the same city." "No one is suggesting that," Lydia interjected. "We're simply advocating for a transitional approach that recognizes Nathan's established bonds while creating space for your increased presence." The conversation continued for over an hour, positions gradually shifting from entrenched starting points toward potential compromise. Eventually, a framework emerged. Nathan would continue his primary residence pattern between Dom and Lydia's households, with Gregory initially having 2 weekday evenings and alternate weekends. After 6 months, they would reassess based on Nathan's adjustment and needs. "This feels unbalanced," Gregory noted, though his initial rigidity had softened. "But I recognized the validity of considering Nathan's established patterns and bonds." "It's a beginning," Dom replied. "A foundation we can build on as Nathan adjusts to your increased presence." As they prepared to conclude the meeting, Gregory hesitated, then addressed Dom directly. "I need to ask you something that's been on my mind for years." Dom raised an eyebrow, waiting. "Why did you choose to remain in Nathan's life after discovering he was not biologically yours? Most men would have stepped away entirely, especially given the circumstances of conception." The question was surprisingly direct. The first time Gregory had explicitly acknowledged the betrayal that connected them. Dom considered his response carefully. "Because he was innocent in all of it," he said finally. "And because I had already become his father in every way that matters. Biology is just one aspect of parenthood, important but not definitive." Gregory absorbed this, nodding slowly. "I've come to understand that, observing your relationship with him over the years. It's humbling and educational." The admission represented significant growth from the entitled, controlling men who had once conspired to dismantle Dom's family. Not friendship or reconciliation, but recognition of a truth they now shared, that fatherhood transcended both biology and circumstance. When approached with genuine commitment as they left the gallery, Gregory extended his hand to Dom, a gesture of professional respect that had become their standard interaction. "Thank you for your willingness to find middle ground. I recognize it would have been easier to oppose my increased involvement entirely." "Not easier for Nathan," Dom replied simply, accepting the handshake. "That's the standard that matters." In the months that followed, Gregory's return to Portland integrated smoothly into their established patterns. Nathan adjusted to seeing his biological father more regularly while maintaining his primary connections to Dom and Lydia without confusion or conflict. The three adults navigated their complex interconnection with increasing skill, focused on Nathan's well-being rather than past grievances. Abigail's senior year brought college decisions and preparations for her next chapter. She had inherited Dom's thoughtful precision, evaluating options before selecting a prestigious art school that balanced creative freedom with technical rigor. Her decision represented the successful integration of both parents' influences, Lydia's artistic sensibility and Dom's pragmatic craftsmanship. One evening in June, as Dom worked late at Foster Craft Works finishing a commissioned dining table, his phone buzzed with a text from Wyatt driving down from Seattle tonight. Need to talk to you about something important. Still at the shop, the message was unexpected. Wyatt typically planned visits well in advance due to his demanding work schedule. Dom replied immediately. Yes, here for another hour at least. Wyatt arrived 45 minutes later, his expression containing a mixture of excitement and nervousness that immediately caught Dom's attention. At 23, his son had grown into a confident young professional, but tonight something had unsettled him. Everything okay? Dom asked, setting aside his tools. Yeah, better than okay, actually. Wyatt ran a hand through his hair, a gesture reminiscent of his teenage years. I've been offered a position with Nakamura Architectural Design in Tokyo. 2-year contract leading their engineering integration team. That's remarkable. Dom said, genuine pride evident in his voice. Their work is revolutionary. I know. It's my dream opportunity. Wyatt hesitated. But it's also halfway around the world. I wanted to discuss it with you before accepting. The consideration touched Dom deeply. His adult son seeking his counsel on a major life decision, valuing his perspective despite their difficult history. What's holding you back? Family mainly, being so far from you, from Abby as she starts college, from Mom and Nathan. After everything we've been through to rebuild our connections, Dom nodded, understanding the concern. Distance changes relationships certainly, but it does not have to diminish them. That's what I keep telling myself. Wyatt leaned against the workbench. There's something else too. Something I've never really talked about. Dom waited, giving his son space to find the words. I've never fully forgiven myself for how I treated you before. Everything happened. The things I said, the attitude I had, how easily I was influenced by grandmother and Gregory. Wyatt met his father's gaze directly. You never really called me on it. Even after you heard everything that night, while building Nathan's crib, you just kept being my father. That's what fathers do, Dom replied simply, not all fathers. Maybe not even most. Wyatt shook his head. I've watched you rebuild our family from what could have been complete destruction. Watched you prioritize stability for all of us above your own justified anger or resentment. It's been educational. The echo of Gregory's words from their recent meeting was not lost on Dom. This opportunity in Tokyo, it's the right next step for you. Do not let concern about family connections hold you back. We've all learned how to maintain what matters across circumstances far more challenging than distance. Wyatt studied his father's face. You really believe that? I do. Dom squeezed his son's shoulder. The foundation we've rebuilt is solid. It can withstand geographic separation. The confidence in Dom's assessment seemed to settle something in Wyatt's expression. I'll accept the position then. It starts in September. They discussed the practical details. Visa requirements. Housing arrangements. Communication plans across time zones. As the conversation concluded, Wyatt hesitated before asking one final question. Dad, do you ever wonder how things might have been different? If Mom had not. He trailed off, unwilling to articulate the betrayal directly. Sometimes, Dom admitted. But wondering about alternate paths is not particularly useful. We're here. Now, with the relationships we've built from what happened. That's what matters. Wyatt nodded slowly. I used to be angry at Mom. For a long time. But watching how UV handled everything. Maintaining boundaries without vengefulness. Prioritizing our stability without sacrificing your own dignity. It helped me find a better way forward with her too. The acknowledgement represented a full circle moment. Dom's measured response to betrayal, not only protecting his own path, but illuminating possibilities for his children's relationships as well. Your mother and I failed at marriage. But we've succeeded at something perhaps more difficult. Rebuilding a functional family from the wreckage of betrayal. That's a fair assessment. Wyatt straightened. His decision regarding Tokyo visibly settled. I should head to Mom's place. Tell her about the position too. We're all having dinner there tonight. Abby, Nathan, even Gregory's joining since it's his weekday evening with Nathan. The casual mention of their reconfigured family gathering. All the principal players in the drama that had unfolded 6 years earlier. Now capable of sharing a meal without tension or conflict. Illustrated how completely they had transformed crisis into workable reality. Tell everyone hello for me. Dom said, returning to his workbench. I've got to finish this table for delivery tomorrow. Always working? Wyatt observed. But without the resentment that had once characterized similar comments. Some things never change. Some things should not. Dom replied with a small smile. After Wyatt left, Dom continued working on the table, his hands moving across the wood. The craftsmanship that had once been cited as evidence of his emotional absence had ultimately provided the steady foundation for their family's reconstruction. His nature applied not just to furniture but to the careful rebuilding of what betrayal had threatened to destroy. 2 weeks later, on a sunny Sunday morning, Dom's peaceful coffee ritual was interrupted by an unexpected knock at his front door. Opening it, he found Lydia and Pam standing on his porch, an unusual pairing given their now cautious relationship. "Sorry to disturb you," Lydia began, her expression suggesting urgency. "Mother arrived yesterday for Abby's graduation next week. There's something we need to discuss." Dom gestured them inside, noting Pam's uncharacteristically subdued demeanor. In the 6 years since the divorce, her periodic visits had been marked by careful distance from Dom. Civil but never warm, respectful of boundaries but clearly harboring unresolved resentment. In the living room, an awkward silence fell until Pam finally spoke, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. "I've been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's. The prognosis is generally positive with proper treatment, but it's prompted some reassessment on my part." Dom nodded, understanding the significance of the disclosure but waiting for its connection to this unexpected visit. "In reviewing my affairs," Pam continued stiffly, "I've been reflecting on past actions and their consequences, particularly regarding my role in the events that led to your divorce." Lydia touched her mother's arm supportively. "Mom has been working with a therapist since her diagnosis. It's been revelatory in many ways." Pam shot her daughter a look that suggested this revelation was not part of their planned discussion. After a moment, she sighed. "The therapist has helped me recognize certain patterns in my behavior, ways I've influenced Lydia's relationships throughout her life, often to their detriment." The admission was startling, coming from a woman who had never acknowledged any negative impact of her involvement in her daughter's life. Dom remained silent, allowing the moment to unfold without his direction. "I owe you an apology, Dominic," Pam stated finally, the words clearly difficult for her. "My involvement in your marriage was inappropriate and destructive. The narrative I encouraged about your dedication to your work being evidence of emotional neglect was not objective or fair." Dom studied her face, noting the genuine discomfort of this acknowledgement. "What specifically are you apologizing for, Pam?" The direct question seemed to throw her momentarily. "For encouraging Lydia to see your work ethic as abandonment rather than provision. For supporting her affair with Gregory as justified rather than acknowledging it as a breach of commitment. For participating in plans to remove the children from your influence while you were away." The comprehensive nature of the admission surprised Dom. He glanced at Lydia, who was watching her mother with a complex mixture of support and weariness. "I've come to recognize that my actions were driven by my own unresolved issues from my marriage to Gerald." Pam continued. "I projected my experiences onto your relationship with Lydia, interpreted your behaviors through the lens of my own resentments." "That's remarkably self-aware," Dom observed. It was not a comfortable realization. Pam's fingers twisted nervously in her lap. "The diagnosis forced me to consider what legacy I'm leaving from my family. I did not want it to be bitterness and manipulation." The sincerity in her voice was unmistakable. This was not a performance but a genuine, if belated, recognition of her destructive influence. Dom considered his response carefully. "I appreciate your apology, Pam. It's not undo what happened, but acknowledgement matters." "I do not expect forgiveness," she clarified quickly. "Just understanding that I recognize the harm I contributed to." "Understanding I can offer," Dom replied. "The past is settled for me. I've built a good life from what remained, as has Lydia. The children have adjusted remarkably well to our reconfigured family structure." "Yes, they have." Pam glanced at her daughter. "Due in large part to how you both prioritize their stability above your own grievances." The conversation continued briefly, addressing practical matters regarding Pam's diagnosis and treatment plan. As they prepared to leave, Pam hesitated at the door. "There's one more thing I should acknowledge," she said quietly. "The night you overheard us talking while building Nathan's crib. I knew you were there." Dom's surprise must have shown on his face. "Not initially," Pam clarified. "But I realized someone was working in the sunroom. I deliberately continued the conversation, made it more explicit, encouraged Wyatt's hostile comments. I wanted you to hear it all, to be hurt by it." "Why?" Dom asked simply. "Because I believed it would provoke you into reacting emotionally, destructively, into confirming the narrative we'd constructed about you." Pam could not quite meet his eyes. "I never anticipated you would respond with such strategic precision, such controlled purpose." It was educational. The admission completed a circle that had begun that night 6 years earlier. The moment when Dom's enemies had revealed themselves fully, unwittingly providing him the information needed to counter their plans. "Your honesty is appreciated," Dom said finally, if somewhat belated. After they left, Dom returned to his coffee, contemplating the unexpected interaction. Pam's apology did not change the past or erase the pain her machinations had caused, but it represented a final acknowledgement of truth, the objective reality of what had happened and who had orchestrated it. The following weekend brought Abigail's high school graduation, a milestone celebration that gathered their reconfigured family in one venue. Dom sat with Wyatt and Nathan, while Lydia, Gregory, and Pam occupied seats nearby, distinct but connected, separated but civil. After the ceremony, they gathered for photographs, a momentary reunification for Abigail's as the official photographer arranged them. Dom found himself standing beside Gregory, both men watching proudly as Abigail accepted congratulations from friends and extended family. "She has your precision," Gregory observed quietly. "The way she analyzed the situations before responding. It served her well." "And Lydia's creativity," Dom acknowledged. "A powerful combination." Gregory nodded. They re-shared appreciation for Abigail, transcending the complex history between them. "I never expected this, you know." "Expected what?" "Dysfunctional reconstruction. When everything fell apart 6 years ago, I anticipated ongoing conflict, permanent hostility. Not the civil coexistence we've managed to establish." Dom considered this assessment. It required everyone choosing a different path than emotion might have dictated, prioritizing stability for the children above personal grievances. "Your influence primarily," Gregory acknowledged with surprising candor. "Your refusal to engage in the expected patterns of betrayed husbands set the tone for everything that followed." Before Dom could respond, Nathan bounded over, grabbing both men's hands with the easy affection of a child who had never known them as enemies. "Dad, Greg, come see my graduation present for Abby." The 6-year-old pulled them toward a small gathering where Abigail was unwrapping a crudely wrapped package. Inside was a handmade picture frame containing a photograph of the entire extended family at Christmas. Dom, Lydia, Gregory, Wyatt, Abigail, Nathan, and even Pam arranged and carefully orchestrated portrait of their unconventional family structure. Nathan picked the photo himself. Lydia explained, joining them. Said it shows everyone who loves Abby together in one place. Abigail hugged her little brother tightly. "It's perfect, Nate. My favorite gift." The moment crystallized what they had collectively achieved. Not reconciliation or forgiveness, but reconstruction. A functional structure built from broken pieces, joined and carried into something that served its essential purpose despite the visible seams of its reassembly. That evening, as the graduation celebrations wound down, Dom found himself walking to his truck alone. A familiar voice called his name, and he turned to find Lydia approaching through the parking lot. "Quite a day," she said, stopping a respectful distance away. Abby was radiant. Dom agreed. She's ready for whatever comes next. "Thanks to both of us in different ways." Lydia hesitated. "Mother's apology yesterday. It was her idea, not mine. I wanted you to know that." "I figured as much." It seemed genuine. It was. The diagnosis has changed her perspective significantly. Lydia wrapped her arms around herself against the evening chill. "It's made me reflective too. About how completely different our lives are from what I imagined that night while you were building Nathan's crib." The reference to that pivotal moment hung between them. The night when truths had been revealed and paths irrevocably altered. Different, yes, but not necessarily worse, at least for the children. Or for us in some ways, Lydia suggested cautiously. "We've both built lives that align more authentically with who we are. My work at the gallery, your expanded business. Both thriving in ways they might not have within the constraints of our marriage." The observation was surprisingly insightful, an acknowledgement that their dissolution, while painful and unnecessarily cruel in its execution, had ultimately freed them both to pursue more aligned paths. "That may be true. Do not concede it. Though the path could have been different. It should have been." Lydia agreed immediately. The deception, the conspiracy with Mother and Gregory. It was inexcusable. I've never pretended otherwise. Not since those first days after you exposed everything. Dom nodded, accepting the acknowledgement without needing to revisit the details of betrayal. "We've built something functional from the aftermath. That's what matters now." "Yes." Lydia smiled sadly. "Not what either of us envisioned, but solid in its own way. Like your furniture, practical, durable, serving its purpose with quiet dignity." The comparison was apt. Their reconfigured family relationships resembled Dom's craftsmanship in their deliberate construction, their prioritization of function over sentiment, their careful joining of disparate elements into cohesive structure. "I should go," Dom said, reaching for his keys. "Early delivery tomorrow." "Of course," Lydia stepped back. "Dom," he paused, waiting. "Thank you for showing our children how to respond to betrayal with dignity rather than destruction. It's a lesson they'll carry forward in ways we may never fully recognize." The acknowledgement required no response. Dom nodded once, accepting the truth of her observation without diminishing the reality of what had transpired between them. Their story had been rewritten from its original intention, transformed by betrayal and response into something neither had anticipated, but both had learned to navigate with hard-won wisdom. Later that night, as Dom worked in his home workshop on a small jewelry box for Abigail's graduation gift, he reflected on the journey of the past 6 years. The betrayal that should have destroyed him had instead revealed a strength he had not recognized in himself. The capacity to respond to emotional devastation rather than reactive destruction. The family he had built with Lydia no longer existed in its original form. The marriage had ended, the trust irrevocably broken, the intimacy permanently severed. Yet from those broken pieces, something new had been constructed, not perfect or seamless, but functional and surprisingly durable. Dom ran his hand over the smooth surface of the nearly completed jewelry box, feeling the barely perceptible seams where different woods joined to create a cohesive whole. Like this box, his reconstructed life contained visible evidence of breakage and repair, of calculated joining, of deliberate design emerging from what could have been merely wreckage. As he applied the final finish to Abigail's gift, Dom recognized the parallel between his craft and his response to betrayal. Both required patience, precision, and the understanding that true quality emerged not from perfect materials but from how skillfully imperfect elements were joined and finished. He had not forgiven Lydia, Gregory, or Pam for their betrayal. Some breaches could not be truly mended, only acknowledged and incorporated into new designs. But he had refused to be defined by their actions, choosing instead to craft a response that preserved what mattered most while discarding what could not be salvaged. The result was not the life he had planned, but one he had deliberately constructed from available materials, solid, functional, and ultimately his own creation rather than someone else's destruction. In the careful joining of broken pieces, he had found not restoration but something equally valuable, reconstruction on his own terms. And in that of response, that refusal to break even when breaking seemed inevitable. Dom had demonstrated the true craftsmanship's understanding. That the most impressive work often emerges not from pristine beginnings but from the skillful handling of unexpected flaws and deliberate precision in joining what has been broken.